Hello, everyone. Jeremy Lamprey here from Up North Athletics, and welcome to episode 5 of the North Star podcast. Here we got Aidan Bingert on the podcast today. Hello, Aidan. How are you doing?
Hello. Good. I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good. So I just want to start off by saying a little intro. Aidan has been my best friend for 22 years. So you will get to hear a little bit more of our stories and backgrounds as we have grown up together. This is going to be a different podcast than your typical fitness and nutrition. We might talk about a little bit about that, but
Tiny bit.
I think the biggest thing for us will be to just chat about our friendship, ups and downs of life and how we kind of pivot and things like that. And as we have progressed through friendship, through our life, how has our lives changed? How have things maneuvered over the years? So that'll kind of be the topic. But I just want to start off by everyone getting to understand a little bit about Aidan. So Aidan, just tell us about yourself. What do you like to do? What's your background? Even if you give a little bit of background of like fitness, nutrition, what you've done in school, just kind of give you like a little bit of intro so people know kind of who you are.
Yeah. So obviously, like you mentioned, I've been your best friend for 22 years. Met in kindergarten. Basically been attached to the hip since. You went to a different high school for a couple of years, but background on me, obviously grew up in Abbotsford, went to school with Jeremy for my whole life. I basically have stayed in and around Abbotsford kind of after high school, went to university at Simon Fraser for a year, then transferred over to the University of the Fraser Valley. And in and amongst all that time, I've kind of gone traveling a little bit on and off, figuring out my life after high school. I would say just as a person, I'm a pretty calm, cool guy, a little bit shy, but when you get me talking, I will talk your ear off for sure. Pretty patient. Just, I like almost everyone. I don't think I dislike anyone, as a person.
There's some people maybe, but not like
maybe
dislike.
You would have to I'd have to really dive into it. And then through that reasoning, I would probably determine I don't actually really dislike that person. No, and then beyond that, so my background, I guess, educationally was I have a degree in exercise science from the University of Fraser Valley, so kinesiology, and an extended minor in psychology. I am currently, again, in school, just kind of taking extra classes because I now work for the University of the Fraser Valley, which is pretty cool. So I'm taking some computer science courses because a few months ago thought, oh, you know what, might change it up, give it a shot, because that's what a lot of people are doing. Not really my cup of tea, but it's definitely something cool to learn. I'm just learning kind of computer programming and website development and that kind of stuff. But yeah, a lot of my schooling and kind of what I've done for jobs has been kind of in kinesiology or in and around that in some way or another. I've done a little bit in around WorkSafe, a little bit in kind of childhood development. And that's kind of what my current job is a little bit more focused towards, is just disability. So that's kind of my educational background. I've been a huge runner for a long time. Yeah,
I want to touch on that because I know I had already mentioned at the beginning, we would not really talk about fitness, but I do want to kind of touch on, that's one thing that really just stood out. And I know I interrupted you, but I just wanted to touch on that because Aidan did a lot of competitive running, track his whole life. So I just want to touch on that first before we lose that subject, just because I know that there are some people listening that have tried an endurance sport, or they've tried either to pick it up as a hobby. And I think the one thing that my question would be is how was the training for you? How much training were you doing? What were the events and or things you were doing to be at that level? Maybe how was your diet around those times? Just touch on a few things that you have found in endurance, because it does touch on, the nutrition and the fitness part of it. And that's also to your experience that I kind of want to hear and have other people hear as well. So,
yeah. And to preface, most of my competition years were high school, maybe just ever so slightly out of high school. But But yeah, in terms of like what I did, my favorite was the 800 meter race. But when you get to that distance, you have to train cross country.
Yeah.
You should be training 1500 a mile races. So I did all of that too. I never really dabbled beyond that in track and field times, just because that's torture around a track, at least in my opinion. But in terms of training, like in high school, it was 3 days a week. So it was Tuesday, Thursday, Saturdays. And then outside of that, it's really what you put into it. I always tried to do Mondays. I always tried to do at least 2 extra. So it was something midweek and then a long run on the weekend. And yeah, it really varied as when I was younger. Now I've gotten more into it again. There was a time where I wasn't really running. I was still exercising, but just trying not to run. But yeah, in the beginning, it definitely varied. So like the long runs were maybe anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour and a half. Just really depended on my mood. As I got older, it was easier to actually sit down and go, oh, no, I like to go at, a 45-minute long run, steady pace, just get in a long run. And then the second run of the week was usually like, I always call it a sandwich run. So it was either 15 minutes hard, 10 minutes easy, 15 minutes hard, or sometimes like the reverse sandwich, easy, hard, easy. Just depending on the week, how much I was getting in during practices and how I felt. Back then, didn't really know a whole lot about nutrition. I knew like with running, you should eat a lot of carbs. That's basically the gist
fuel,
of like...
It's your main fuel source.
Yeah.
Like even talking to high level hockey players and stuff like that, it's like, I think that's the misconception a lot of times. And I want to kind of talk about that right now because you had mentioned, you weren't per se maybe aware as much in high school for nutrition wise when it came to running. And I think my question would be more in regards to how did you find when you started to understand a little bit more about nutrition, how did you find that it impacted your training? Like once you started maybe shifting a few things, did you find it really improve? The reason why I'm asking is just because I want to make sure that people understand that the importance of nutrition actually has a lot to do with performance, right? There's a difference between performance and aesthetics goals, right? If you have a performance goal, not that aesthetics doesn't matter, it's just your goal is performance. Like you want to perform, you want to be at your best.
Doesn't necessarily equate to
obviously
perform.
Well, obviously there's, and I'm putting this in quotations, running body. Oh yeah, right. There's gonna be
lean.
Yeah, there's gonna be a better probably body shape. If you're a little bit lighter, it's probably going to be easier to run. Doesn't mean you can't run if you're not what this is in quotation.
But runners typically aren't packed with muscle. They're not going to have a lot of
if you're going to be packed with muscle, you're probably going to be a sprinter.
Yeah, you're going to be doing shorter distances. I mean, just calorically, that's going to crush you if you have to go and do like a 10K and you have all that muscle working.
Yes, and I think that's where the misconception, and that's kind of what I wanted to tie in to this piece, because I see a lot of people, they'll choose running or they'll choose a cardio exercise to lose body fat. And I know that at times it can support your cardiovascular health. It can help with a healthier individual. Yes, it can technically help losing body fat a little bit, but it shouldn't be the main
shouldn't be your only way of doing it.
It shouldn't. And if anything, you just said right there, like calorically, if you're trying to do all this cardio and trying to eat and support your physique, it's going to be really hard to do, right? Yeah. So tying that in, and I know me and you over the years, we have 2 different body types. And that's something else that I want people to know. And like, I see that as Aidan being my friend. Like I know, and I actually use Aidan as an example in a lot of my nutrition talks about how I have a friend who is the total opposite of me, where I'm someone who can pack on a ton of muscle. Aidan has a harder time doing that, but he has an easier time staying lean.
Oh, very much.
Where I'm the opposite. Yeah. Not that I can't stay lean, but it's just
for me, like naturally, like just to give an example, in the mornings, I could easily not eat for like 6 hours and feel totally fine.
Yeah.
Still have my 3 meals in a day, and they don't even have to be big meals. Like just my own natural tendencies lean towards staying very, very lean.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you probably started to weightlift or starting to run again, you just start leaning out.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah,
it wouldn't even be an issue.
Not at all.
Like where you would have to gain muscle.
It's a hassle for me to like.
Yeah.
Like it's a workout in itself just to eat.
Yeah.
Which I've done it in the past where like when I was switching from running, not that I've gained a ton of muscle, but like those times where I'm eating upwards of 4,000 calories a day, it's like that's hard for me.
Well, that's like that, and that's
so hard.
And that's the thing, right? It's like, and you probably needing 4,000 calories, you sit at a specific weight where if I started eating 4,000 calories, it would be easy for me to start getting muscle. Like that would be ideal. Where I can sit around, I don't know your weight right now, but I can sit around 200, 220, and I can do that probably year round and be like, that's super easy for me. Yeah. But for you to get to 200 pounds you would have to be.
It would be a mountain. Like, like my brother is a good example where
he's kind of in the between. I find now. Last time I saw him.
Yeah, well, I think he's genetically a little bit different than I am. He's just kind of heavier naturally, I think. But
yeah, like I find that
he's an example where like we look very similar. At least that's what people tell me. But he's 40 pounds heavier than me.
Yeah,
like right then and there. I think when he told me he's like 185, 190-ish almost.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's almost 40 pounds entirely heavier than me. And that's you're
about 150 then?
Yeah.
Roughly?
Yeah. Like I can fluctuate. Like
what's the heaviest you've been now?
No, I think when I came back from New Zealand, I was like,
oh, that was because you were drinking beer.
Dude, my diet there every day was like a lot. Yeah, it was a lot of beer, a lot of burgers and pizza. Yeah, I probably.
But that's the thing. Like, so I think this is what I'm trying to get with people is that, not that body type doesn't play a role, right? There, you hear the ectomorph, endomorph, mesomorph. Yes and no. I believe that you can change how you consume calories, but the premise of gaining muscle and the premise of losing body fat goes pretty much the same no matter your body type. And that's what I want to make really important to people. I think they see, and you've probably seen that, like those charts of mesomorph, ectomorph, endomorph, things like that.
Yeah, that then kind of also ties in like BMI and other things.
Yeah, where, at the end of the day, it just means that in the case of Aidan wanting to gain muscle, he has to eat way more calories to do that.
Yeah. And
would probably have to reduce his cardio just because.
Oh, I absolutely have to. That's why like I can't. I mean, as much as I like to run, like it is a good de-stressor. Like if I want to be gaining muscle, I really can't.
Yeah.
I can't expend the extra energy because to make it easier on myself in the beginning, I really shouldn't. Once I'm, 2-3 months into whatever I'm trying to do, then maybe when I'm in the flow of things, it's not too difficult to increase, a daily increase of a couple, 100 calories, 200 calories, just to maybe balance it out for one run a week. But yeah, definitely in the beginning, I can't.
Yeah.
I just can't.
One, and I know there's not a ton of people that are in the case where they're trying to gain. Well, they are trying to gain muscle, but most of the people that I've chatted with are trying to lose body fat. But
yeah, I'm usually on the opposite. Like I'm trying to just generally gain weight. Yeah. Usually it's probably gain fat to begin with, and then just transfer that to muscle.
Well, and I think like going off of that, like transferring, like you usually would have to increase your calories to a point where you might gain some body fat.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's going to look bad on your frame, right? Like I think the big thing here is that when you start to gain a certain amount of muscle, a little body fat doesn't actually look as, in quotation, bad as people think it is, right? The misconception is that a lot of times when someone's starting out, they feel that either they're starting at a point where they need to lose body fat.
Mm-hmm.
So talking to the people that are trying to gain muscle, you'd want to probably have drinkable calories, easy to digest carbohydrates, and just things that are going to create more simpler day-to-day things. You probably will be doing the things that the opposite of what the spectrum would be. Yeah. Most of the times you for losing body fat, you don't try to have drinkable calories. You don't do these things like that. But for someone in that case, I would say you would want to almost do the opposites of what you've been told when it comes to fitness and stuff.
Yeah. But to kind of answer one of your like previous questions on like how has my, I guess, knowledge beyond my competitive years of running or just years of running, how has like my diet changed or anything like that? I think what I've learned, just because I remember in high school, it was always like the idea of carbo loading. Mm-hmm. No real advice beyond that. Just eat pasta before the night.
Which doesn't even help you. Like, because you know what I mean? Like I could just, hey, eat carbs. Like, well,
I've personally found, just because, you probably know with running, like after a certain time that you are in that kind of state, you just switch to fats. So I've just naturally, I'm cool eating a ton of fat, and I enjoy it. It feels good. So that's just what I've noticed that makes my runs feel better. Like I'll still have a good amount of carbs, but I eat a lot more like just avocado, lots of peanut butter, things like that to just kind of fuel when I go on longer runs.
And that's dependent on the individual.
Yeah.
Like that's also something to be aware of, is that what maybe works for Aidan doesn't work for someone else.
Yeah.
So when we talk about specific things, just as a disclaimer that just because it works, for Aidan or something, just be cautious if you decide to switch anything up, that use it as like a trial and error. Try it out, see if it works. If it doesn't,
don't just go eat a ton of peanut butter.
Yeah. Don't just go
don't just scarf down avocados and olive oils and all the
Aidan's done it for a while now, where he knows what works best for him.
I still eat a ton of carbs to go with it. Like my mornings are just a ton of fruits, and every now and then it'll be like oatmeal's just to pair it off, but I eat a ton of bananas and fruits and everything just to start my day. So but the other thing I've noticed with running is if I'm doing something in the morning, I just naturally feel better not to, like, I don't feel the same pressure to eat something before to try and get the energy. Like if I have a day where I have to go, like do something throughout the whole day and I just have to get a run in and I really want to, I still feel pretty good not eating anything. Cause I remember like in high school, before I really knew a lot, I would always try and make sure I ate something, force myself to wait a little bit, then go do it. I think that's one thing that just kind of, I don't know if there's any specific advice around it. It's just something that I've kind of observed and changed, where I feel pretty good and then I'll eat just my normal day afterwards, but I don't try and force myself to eat anything. And then at the end of the race or at the end of the run, you're dealing with throwing up.
Yeah.
Not that I did that a lot, but that's always something that I'm sure runners encounter, other than myself, where you're running across that finish line, you see the bucket or the garbage bin, and there's always those people there that are like, do you want it? And you're like, I don't really want it today, so I'm gonna try and avoid that oatmeal, too soon before the race or something like that. But just going for everyday runs, I'm better at just not eating before them, and that's just for me. If I'm doing something later in the day, then obviously I've eaten throughout the day, and I tend not to eat. I think it's like 2-3 hours before, which I think is, on advice wise, is pretty normal. But that's the biggest thing in terms of like what I eat specifically. Little changes, like I mentioned, that I eat probably just more fats, but just like when I go and do it around my food has been a noticeable thing that I don't stress about and don't really worry about during, and I still feel pretty good. If anyone starts out doing it, then you're probably going to feel maybe a little bit tired, a little bit, I don't know, out of sort, because it is definitely a weird thing. I know I've done workouts, like just weight workouts, where it's early in the morning, and that's where I notice it, because I'm not used to that kind of workout being empty. So I would understand if you feel that way when you go for a run. But I'm so used to it now that I don't have those same kind of psychological or even physiological effects anymore. But that's I'd say that was like the biggest thing to kind of go back on that initial question you asked earlier.
Well, yeah, and it goes like your body has adapted to doing that as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I think going back to, you said carb loading, and I think nowadays that old school approach of like eat as much carbs the night before, it's actually like
just down that pasta, yeah.
It's actually like 4 or 5 days before the race that you should be thinking of now. It's not the day before, because that it doesn't just happen where your body can produce that glucose right away, like in that specific amount of time. You gotta
start on like the Tuesday for your Friday, Saturday. Yeah.
Yeah, and also too, like basing it off what Aidan was saying is like he can run on an empty stomach. It also might be because, and this is something
I'm also having caffeine.
That's
the other thing. I'm also having caffeine before I go for a run.
But I was gonna say too, like your routine and your eating is probably pretty similar day to day.
Oh, so you're very habitual. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're probably fueled already from the day before. Yeah. So if you have an early morning run, if someone is going to do and have something, either I would probably stick to having fruit before or honey. I wouldn't do anything like oatmeal or anything like that personally.
No,
that's just up to the
higher fiber you have of a
it's really hard
carb,
to digest.
It's kind of like, and this is again me, like I think generally the advice is try not to have a ton of fiber regardless, but to me I feel the same way when I have like dairy. It's that same heavy like you worry you're gonna poop yourself kind of thing. Which thankfully hasn't happened, but you shouldn't have a ton of fiber. I mean, unless you're really used to oatmeal every single morning.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like and that also goes based off of I can't remember where I was listening to it, but you have athletes that's, let's say they have like a pre-game meal, right? And they're used to having that pre-game meal.
That's like Gretzky. He had a steak and potato.
Yeah, and if
every single
like psychologically, like let's say digestibility, maybe that's not the best meal to have a game. Let's just say, right? Yeah. Or let's say it's a lasagna or pasta or like heavy Alfredo before a game, right? Yeah. Probably most likely that's not probably the best meal for performance.
Yeah.
If we look at it in a bigger spectrum. But if you change someone's pre-game meal, it's actually the psychological that is going to be affecting them at that point. Because now they're like, I'm not having that pregame meal. Every time I have a game, I have this meal. Yeah. It's more of a routine. And if you try to switch that, a lot of times actually that athlete, their performance will go down because the psychological of it will change. So it's like trying to make small changes with it if you're going to do anything like that. But
I think that's like what you're getting at. The biggest change is probably I'm a very habit-driven person to begin with, but I've just been able to solidify my day-to-day routine. And back, high school, just out of high school, first few years in university, as much as like it would kind of drive me, I want the same habits, I was not habitual, like consistently. So yeah, that probably shaped a lot of like my energy or how much, like how long I was able to run for, like how many times in a week I went, or things like that, on top of, things happen in life or your schedule might change just without anything you have control over. But definitely wasn't aware of how much staying consistent in your routine can just make things easier. Yeah.
Well, and that just goes off of just routine base, and that's why like building habits is so important too, because it goes off of what will be the easiest for you to accomplish the things that you need to accomplish, not what is whatever this person's doing or that person. And kind of goes off like morning routines and what you do before bed, and there's so many things that you can do. Yeah. But you got to also do what's going to be easier for you at the end of the day.
Just what makes you feel good. Because, you can jump on the internet, on YouTube, and you can find 1,000,001 things that could take you 8 hours from your morning to whatever time of the day to do. And then if it doesn't make you happy or feel good, what's the point? And you've wasted however much time in your day.
Well, and that just goes based off too of if your routine is something that is a stress to you, then probably you need to change your routine.
Yeah.
And obviously there's going to be some sort of.
Well, here's my question for you. Are you, when you wake up, are you a morning person? Do you are you get up and go Energizer bunny, or are you kind of like, I need to take a beat and just let the sun hit me, maybe even just like sit around for just, no?
I find that nowadays it's because I'm busier. Mm-hmm. So I almost feel, I guess it depends on when I wake up. I usually wake up nowadays I usually wake up around 6:45 to 7:45.
Okay.
So that's like that window, an hour window.
Yeah.
I've gone to a point now where I naturally also fall asleep around 10 to 11.
Yeah.
So I'm getting, let's say, maybe eight hours roughly. Let's say 7.5 to 8.5 hours of sleep. I find that when I wake up, I actually have been, and I don't know if this is a good habit of mine yet. I haven't figured this out, but I usually go on my phone right away, but I don't scroll Instagram or social media. I actually do work.
Okay.
So I do work on my phone as soon as I wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
I haven't found that to make me anxious, or they say don't go and scroll on Instagram or social media right away.
Yeah.
Usually I'll like delete emails, or I'll read an email, or I'll
do
reply
like little minor tasks.
Yeah, reply to texts that I didn't reply the day before, or look at my schedule, or I don't know, write stuff out on my phone, or invoice, whatever I'm doing on my phone, work wise. And then usually if I'm going to do any scrolling or look at social media, I try to do that at least an hour after I've been up. So, so then I'll go do my like routine, and I have my own morning routine as well. So maybe we should talk about that. Yeah, let's talk about morning routines a little bit, because we're in that topic, and this number 5 podcast doesn't really have a subject in the way of, we're just going to talk about random stuff.
We're just talking about what comes to our mind.
Yeah. So morning routine, I guess I'm already talking about mine, so I might as well just keep going on mine.
So just to kind of recap, you do like your little tasks, just to kind of clear minor stuff out of the way.
How about I just go what I did today?
Yeah.
Too. It's pretty. So I woke up, then did what I had on my phone, whatever work, text messages, things like that, check-ins. And then I will brush my teeth before I have anything. Mm-hmm. So
wait, before you eat or after?
Before.
Oh, okay.
I've heard that it's better to do that before you eat. Actually,
I have no idea. I just naturally
done it after, just because I don't want, because I eat eggs every single morning. I just don't want the smell of eggs on my breath. No, that's fair. But from what I heard is that and I might be totally wrong.
Yeah.
But I've read this countless times that, and I might be quoting it wrong too, but when you wake up in the morning, you have more germs and susceptibility. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. To have more germs, have things throughout the night that have caused, not viruses, but see, I'm quoting this wrong, but
your mouth is more biodiverse with probably not great bacteria.
Yeah, just because you've either been mouth breathing throughout the night, or like a spider has crawled into your mouth, and it is not just.
Yeah, you're just letting that.
Just gonna scare everyone.
Is that why everyone?
A tarantula, I'm start choking on a tarantula in the middle of the night. Yeah, that usually happens. And
that was actually I always wondered, because I've always slept in a basement. Growing up.
Did that actually happen?
Well, just because in basements, because my window was right next to underneath the porch.
Oh, I remember this.
And so there was just always a spot for spiders to accrue. And I always wondered Wonder if I ever swallowed one of these, or any of these just like happened to crawl into my mouth and just crawl its way through and then
and
out.
make a nest, and now it's in your stomach, and now you have 8,000
but
spiders in your body.
At the same time, like,
then you become Spider-Man.
well, yeah, like if I don't know, I don't know, and I'm better off. So, but I've always wondered it.
I know, yeah. So from what I've heard is brushing, because when you eat right away, now what you're doing is you're mixing the food with that bacteria versus cleaning it off and then going to have food.
Okay, interesting.
So that was what the theory of what I've read about.
Yeah.
So I'll do brush teeth first. Then I do like a morning. I do bone broth right away in the morning. A lot of people cannot drink bone broth right in the morning. I don't know. They think it's weird.
Yeah.
But a lot of people do. It's just having more of a beef broth right in the morning sometimes turns people off.
Have beefy breath.
Yeah, but you know what I find is I actually don't get that same breath
Linger
from when I brush it first, because I think what's happening is when you mix the food with the bacteria that I was saying in the morning, it kind of mixes it, and then it almost like ferments. It seems like.
Well, yeah, I don't know, like,
I don't know the science, but
yeah,
I'm just speculating.
I imagine if you're having a lot of carbs, because that's kind of where carb breakdown starts, then, you know, if it's lingering in your mouth, like the saliva in your mouth breaking it down probably makes it not the best smelling thing. Yeah. But that's just a guess. I have no idea the science.
Well, if there's any like dentists or anyone, or I don't know, at the same time, I find that there's actually like, what are they called? Are they holistic dentists?
Holistic dentists?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I've never heard that.
Yeah, actually, the guy that I was talking to last time, Sam, he went to see like it was almost like a naturopath / dentist.
Okay.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So not that I don't want to hear it from an actual dentist, but I just feel sometimes that you can get a little bit of a different approach sometimes with like a naturopath. I find that sometimes they're more open to other. Yeah. Not that I'm bashing doctors, but I've had many doctors that have helped me, but I've also had many doctors that haven't.
Yeah, it just depends on the person, I suppose.
Right. Yeah. Just your experiences.
Yeah. Okay, so
I know we're like,
you brush your
just like
so you brush your teeth and then you have some bone broth.
Yeah, and then I'd make a shake with greens, collagen, and fulvic minerals. And I shake it up. I put some amino acids in there, some salt,
make it
some
tasty.
lemon, you know, just get all the nutrients.
Just throw it all in there.
Yeah. And then I walked on the treadmill. I have like a little desk treadmill.
Oh yeah.
It's not I don't have a desk, but it's, you know.
Yeah, I know it's meant to be for like a standing desk.
Yeah, standing desk. So I just did about 20 minutes on that. And then usually by the time I do that on the treadmill, I'll do work, or I'll read, or I'll watch a video, something that has to do with whatever, if it's motivation or mindset or fitness. And then usually I'll like shower, get ready, and either go to work or I'll go to the gym or whatever I'm doing.
Whatever you want of like first kind of real things of the day.
I would say an hour and a half it takes me to do everything.
Okay. Yeah. That's about the same amount of time that I like for my morning.
Yeah. And I guess I do a cold like at the end of my shower. So I'll do like a hot shower, and then I'll maybe do a minute, 2 minutes, just so cold water.
Yeah, just to wake yourself up.
Yeah, but I find that after about 20, and that's what I've been finding when I've done work on my phone. Yeah. After about 10 minutes, I'm wide awake. Like I'm just like, bang, wide awake. I'm good to go. Yeah. Where if I don't do that, I'm still dragging around. I'm like, like trying to get everything ready. So I don't know if there's that correlation of maybe, I know they say to try to get sunlight right in the morning if you can. Yeah. But
I mean, we live in BC, so it's sometimes, and it's winter right now, so sometimes sunlight doesn't appear till like our day has already started.
Or ever.
Yeah, it's just gray.
Right. It's like, it's usually sometimes there's never sun. So maybe there's that correlation. And I've heard sometimes that there's a little bit of correlation sometimes with artificial light that can sometimes mimic a little bit of not actual sunlight, but maybe that's
plays a little bit more of a psychological thing than
or even maybe it actually does physically work. So they usually say if you can try to just like brighten up the lights in your house when you wake up, like almost like mimic it, like your nighttime is super, super dark and then brightness. So that's mine. What about you, buddy?
Mine, I mean, like I said, in terms of length, it's about the same because I'm someone that likes to kind of, I don't want to sound lazy, but like I like a slow, easy morning.
I'm like the opposite of you then.
With my work, I don't have anything kind of drag on in the morning. But if anything, it drags on in the evening. But usually it's all done during the day. So my morning is, I wake up anywhere between 6:15 most days. And then for me, because I shower in the evenings every day, so I just kind of wake up, splash some water in my face, just get ready more or less in the first about 20 to 30 minutes of the day. So get dressed, if I'm needing my backpack for the day and anything in there, get that ready, make sure everything's kind of just queued up, easy to go and grab when I'm actually leaving. So that usually takes like the first 20, 30 minutes of my day. So I'm up, kind of wandering around the house. That's normally how I start every day, even if it's like a Saturday or Sunday, like I'm doing that regardless. Normally I'm not finding stuff to take with me, but sometimes I am. If I'm not finding stuff on the weekends, I'll do like a little bit of stretching or a little bit of mobility just to kind of mimic me moving around more. And then during the week after I'm kind of set, I'll do like, it's really quick, but I'll do some sort of mobility where like I'll sit in a deep squat for like 15 to 30 seconds, hang from my pull-up bar for 15, 30 seconds, just do some kind of side to side movement to kind of get myself like awake and get some sort of blood flowing. But again, it's like 2 minutes just to kind of make it easy. On the weekends, it turns into a little bit more. After that, I usually have like a glass of water. And then after that, I would say I make a pot of coffee. Like depending on how much I need or how much is like there, I'll make probably like a full cup or a full pot. And then I never finish it. I don't know why I make a full pot, but I usually make a full pot. And then while that's kind of brewing, I'll just grab a little bit of water with, and add just like a little tiny bit of salt is what I've started to do just to get some salts in me. And while I drink that, I'll just go stand outside. So like you were mentioning, it's not always like sunny, but I will just stand outside.
Like fresh air.
Like even this morning, it was more or less wind. I can't even say there was much light. It was basically just wind hitting my face. Helps me wake up. But yeah, I'll do that every morning, basically till the coffee's brewed. So it's usually like 3 to 5 minutes. Since we are in winter, there are times it's shorter because it's cold, especially at like 6:30, 6:45 in the morning when it's just dark still. So I'm not getting a whole lot of sunlight, but at least there's some sort of light. My eyes can wake up, and I'm getting usually gusts of wind in my face.
Which, it's kind of like cold therapy.
It is because I don't throw on a hoodie or anything. Like it'll be me, depending on kind of just depending on my day. Sometimes I don't, like I'll just wear shorts in the morning. So it'll just be me in shorts and a t-shirt, just standing outside. So I'll do that for like 3 to 5 minutes. Come back in, coffee's ready. I'll pour the cup of coffee. All my water, my water with salt's usually finished.
You're a caffeine connoisseur.
Yeah, I do like my caffeine. But again, like I make a full pot, but I don't ever drink it all just because I don't want to like over consume. And again, I'm too conscious of my breath. Like I don't want coffee breath. I
wonder if you would try like brushing your teeth first.
I'm gonna switch it up. Yeah,
just try to see, because I don't get that.
But what I will say is, because I always for breakfast I'll have some sort of smoothie. Yeah. So I never have like I also brush my teeth afterwards, but on the odd days where like I have a second like full thing of coffee, then I'll usually drink that on my way to work, and then I'll have my smoothie when I'm there. So I'm always washing down the coffee with like, so in my smoothie, because my breakfast following my coffee, I usually sit around with my cup of coffee for anywhere between 20 and 30 minutes. And I'll just like sit there. I don't really touch my phone. I mean, thanks to our friend Lucas, I'm now in fantasy hockey, so I'll like set my lines and everything for the day. So I'm
shout out Lucas Jackman.
Yeah, shout out to Lucas Jackman. But again, that takes like all of 2 minutes. And if I'm really trying to make a move, then maybe 5. But I'll look at my phone for like 2 minutes, and then I'll keep it beside me just to check the time.
Yeah. No social media. Nothing.
I don't have Instagram. I don't have anything.
You don't have Instagram anymore?
No. I got rid of it at the very beginning of this year.
You guys didn't even know this.
Yeah, I got rid of it at the very beginning of this year. I mean, I still have my Facebook. It
kind of makes sense though now that I think of it.
Yeah.
It's like I haven't seen you on there in a while.
It's been, what is today, the 17th? So it's been 48 days.
Oh man.
48 days no Instagram.
I'm kind of like, that's my thing with social media.
It's been pretty nice. Although what I will say is if I do go on my phone at any other point in those mornings, which does happen, I'll be on YouTube. And what I'll try and do to like not stay on YouTube is I'll scroll through whatever is most recent, what I want to watch, and I'll save it for later. That way I don't watch it then. Yeah. And at least I've gone through that little habit of like, oh, I want to check something. I'll just save it all for later. And then I'm like, okay, it's done for later when I get home, or like when I'm on break throughout the day, I'll save it for then. Then I usually just put my phone away. And yeah, I'll just hang out just in the living room. The sun is coming up then, so like windows are wide open, and I'll just kind of soak it in, think. If I really need to write anything, then I'll type it on my phone. I don't normally like journal anything in the morning.
Journaling, I don't know.
I'll do it in the evening, but I'm not super into like just recently, I should say, not into like the super open, just write whatever comes to your mind. I have a more kind of targeted one of those like burn after reading books. Like I have a few of them where they're like a little bit more specific on like just different parts of life.
I just talk to myself in my
head. I do that a ton.
I think for some reason I feel like it works better.
That's part of my drive. Like, so I'm a little bit of I think a weirdo where so after
Aidan's
my morning,
having conversations.
Yeah, so quickly wrap up my morning routine. I'll sit there for about 20-30 minutes, drink my coffee, relax.
An hour after you wake up, you have caffeine, roughly?
Anywhere between 45 minutes and an hour. Just depends on like how conscious I am of it. Because I know you're supposed to wait upward. Like you're probably supposed to wait 90. Hour to 90.
They say about 60 to 90, but yes, I try about an hour.
Yeah, I would say I'm more consistently 45 to 50 minutes.
That's not, it's better than I've heard people like they will literally wake up and their first sip of anything before anything is coffee.
I just don't like that. I know in the past I've been far better at doing that, where I'm waiting X amount of time before I have my coffee and before I eat. But I feel pretty good with just the morning routine that I've developed, where I'm like, 10, 15 minutes really shouldn't make that much of a difference. I feel pretty good. I'm not stressing about waiting and then having to like bring my coffee, because it also just helps like the full morning routine. Like I don't have to go take a dump at work. It's fantastic. So
you're just like, I'm already getting going.
It's done. And then after that 30-40 minutes, I should also say I'm in that time, I will get up and like usually make hard-boiled eggs. So I'll let them boil, go sit back down. And then by the time that coffee's done, I'll go up, I'll take them off the stove, let them sit there. And then I'll make my smoothie, which is basically the same thing every day. It's 2 cups of frozen fruit, like berries mostly. Mm-hmm. Banana, chia seeds. I like the Icelandic yogurt. So like Siggy's.
He's fancy by everyone.
Yeah. Well, I'm also like slightly lactose, so if I can get a a yogurt that's not so heavy on that. It's fantastic. Almond milk, water.
Have you ever tried coconut yogurt?
I have. It's a little heavy. Like by that I mean, I also don't like a ton of sweet in the morning. Like
unsweetened though, coconut.
I haven't tried it unsweetened.
Yeah. There's some, I can't remember what brand it is.
Yeah.
But I usually, it's not high in protein. It's high in fat.
Yeah, that's why I like Siggy's. Even though it is like yogurt's heavy, but Siggy's like 18 grams of protein for like 10 grams of sugar.
Is there no dairy in it? No. There's no dairy in it.
No, there is. I forget.
There is dairy, right?
I forget exactly. I think it's like skim milk.
Oh, so no fat in it?
Yeah, there's no fat in this one.
I'm surprised you digest that. Usually they say you digest with more fat.
Yeah, I like if I could have the ideal Greek yogurt where it's like high in protein, high in fat, and not so much in like extra cornstarch and sugar, I would love it, but doesn't really exist.
Have you just had it on plain before and it was...
I've been considering doing that. I've had it before, just taste wise.
Why don't you just add like your own sweetener?
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking of, because
like
I have done it in the past where I've just thrown in plain and it's basically the taste of the berry, depending on how good the berries are when they were frozen.
Yeah, that's the thing too.
Because usually with mine it's mixed berries, so raspberries.
Honey would be really good.
Raspberries are pretty dominant in their taste.
Maple syrup.
I hate maple syrup.
Really?
I hate it. I mean, everyone loves it, but I'll have it on pancakes. It's not my choice. Smoothie though? Nope, I would not have it in a smoothie.
You wouldn't even try it?
I mean, I would give it a shot, sure, but I don't like how. I mean, it's probably me where I can recognize like, oh, that's maple syrup. I feel like it would be overpowering, and I don't want that. But I would try it just to give it a shot. I'd probably do honey instead.
Honey's good too. Those are usually two sweeteners I like to use. It's not that others are, you could get like an organic cane sugar or. Yeah.
But I think too, like even though I'm having a fruit smoothie, that's about as sweet as I like to have it in the morning. Because if I'm going to go for like a breakfast on the weekend, I'm usually leaning towards a savory dish. I'm not the guy who gets pancakes or waffles. If they come on the side, great.
I feel like when you eat stuff like that right in the morning, you feel like shit the rest of the day.
Yeah, I don't like having a lot of...
Like you just feel like very bogged down.
Yeah. At the very least, like with savory, like I'm the guy. I love farmer sausage, eggs, thick cut bacon's great. But even after that, like you feel heavy and like groggy. But at least for me, I don't feel like as bad if I were to have a ton of like sugar.
Yeah, well, that's why I like doing the walk and then eating after, because it's like you've already kind of got that metabolism going. You've burned a little bit of calories. I'm not doing it for burning calories, but I burned a little bit of calories. Then I have like an overnight oat kind of thing. Yeah. So I forgot to mention that too. Yeah. It depends on when I have that, but usually I'll do that, like a steel cut.
Oh yeah.
Organic oats, and then I'll do blueberries, honey. I can't have whey. Oh, man, I wish I could have whey.
I can't have whey either.
Whey's so good, like whey protein. It tastes so good.
Yeah.
And there's so many things you can do with it. You make so many. I have like a rice protein because that's what easily like digests for me. Yeah, and then I add coconut to it and cocoa nibs.
I can't do the whey. It's hard on me.
But that's what I'll do. I like doing that after I do activity.
I'll do,
you know what I mean? Like, so I have that bone broth and the collagen, which has some calories, but it's just protein. So that's maybe about 20 to 30 grams. And then I go do some activity. Then I have it and I feel way better.
Yeah.
It's almost like like reverse the storages. And then
I usually, and this is more weekend because I got to be at work by 8:30. And like I said, I'm kind of lazy in the morning. So I like to keep it nice and slow. But on the weekends, I'll go for a walk, but I do it after I've eaten. Like I'll still stick to my same routine. I'll still stick to the same timeline where I'm up and eating and trying to do it all in the same time frame. Maybe if I've been out late, maybe I'll shift my wake up a bit, but it's still the same time frame. And then I'll go for a walk afterwards. And I do it with like my lunches, because now with work, I'll bring my whole lunch. I usually don't eat in the lunchroom. I'll go somewhere else on campus and eat it there. And then because I'm somewhere else, I have to walk back. And then I just drop my stuff off and just keep walking. I'll just walk off my food, and usually like 20, depending on how nice it is, because I can only do so many laps of the university when it's wet out.
Yeah.
And you also like see the same people, and you're constantly being like, hey again. And they're like, why are you passing by all the time? So when it's nice out, longer walk, but it's usually about 20-ish minutes. When it's not nice, 10 minutes, walk after eat, and then kind of just sit back down, do whatever I need to do. But I always try to walk after I've eaten, just to...
Yeah, it's really good. It is good for you. It is good for your digestion. Yeah. I find the only time I don't like doing that is in the morning. So I find that walking before then eating, I don't feel... I think it's because I like waiting a little bit before I eat. And then when I do the walk, I actually feel hungry after.
That makes sense.
Enough to eat. And then usually what I'll do is I'll already be going to work right after. So it's the last thing I do. I eat, then go into my car, then start training people. And like I'm already being active in a way. Yeah. I don't mind eating and then walking after throughout the day though. That's fine. But yeah, it just changes.
That's my morning routine. Yeah. And then I jump in my car and I go to Abbotsford for work. Yeah. So, but back to like why I'm a weirdo, and like I think it's totally normal that you talk to yourself. Prior to this job, and I shouldn't say this job, but prior to the beginning of this year, because I've been trying to listen to an album a day. So my car rides to work are usually
album a day.
Oh, I've been crushing it, man. I'm at like 70 albums.
What are the Music May or whatever? What did we do? March Music March.
Music May 2 years ago. Yeah. We can get back to that because I do want to explain who Marcus King is to you. But no, the reason you're not a weirdo is prior to this year and me doing all the like trying to listen to music, my car rides were usually silent and I would just talk to myself. And like my previous job, I was driving like I was. So
Were you driving Chilliwack?
I live in well, at one point with this job in the last, like my previous job, because I had to move back to Chilliwack, I was driving from Chilliwack to South Surrey. So I was doing 77 kilometers, I think was exact.
One way?
And then I come home. So I was doing like 154. If I have to make any detours, then I'm doing 160 plus a day.
That's crazy, man.
So on those ones, I had just time. I had so much time, and I didn't always use it to listen to something. I would just talk to myself. I would just work through any sort of thought or, issues or anything, and I would just talk. No music, nothing. And sometimes I was just silent. So I don't think it's odd. Like I've always been someone that just, before I go to bed, when I'm on a walk, anytime, I'll just talk to myself.
It's interesting. Like I drive 4 kilometers.
Yeah.
2 there, 2 back. So
I've always been amongst all of our like close friends. I definitely like.
Actually, no. When I was going to Abbotsford to Douglas.
Yeah, you did commute. That's right.
Oh man.
That's right. But I've always I've been so different from all of you guys because everyone lives really, really close to where they went to school, where they work. I've always that first year SFU commuted Abbotsford to Burnaby. I got very good at zoning out. Not that it's a good thing to zone out when you're driving, but driving, my parents' minivan to and from university.
Oh, that minivan! There's after stories.
Days where I'm begrudgingly going to school and not really wanting to do that, you're just exhausted because you're kind of battling yourself. I would zone out, man. And because it was a 2002 Dodge Caravan, so there was no aux. I mean, I probably could have put one in, but no aux, just CDs. So it was J. Cole's Forest Hills Drive. That's all I had. And because that would play every single day, it just put me into like a hypnotic state. I could just zone out. I'd cross over that bridge every single day and be home and wake up, which is not a good thing. You should not drive like that. But yeah, I was thinking about that this morning.
I agree with the whole music. I also try to explain when I'm in a room all day where there's music playing.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes I'm at the gym for 10 hours and all I hear is music all day. When you get into your car, nice to have like peace.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
Yeah.
Right. You have time to think. Even when, and they say, if you ever want to get out of an awkward situation or you want to get out of a conversation, turn the music off in the background. People
interesting.
So people will stay in a conversation if music's happening in the background.
Yeah.
If there's like even an awkward silence, because the music will take over those awkward silences in that conversation.
Oh,
so if you turn music off, then it's completely silent.
Yeah.
And then someone's like, and you can like walk away easier. It's like a little hack. Weird. So if there's ever music playing, try turning it off if you want to get out of a conversation.
That's so odd. I do the opposite.
Oh, you put music on?
Well, I guess I do both things kind of opposite. So yeah, I'll turn music on and I'm totally fine talking over it. But I also like when someone gets into my car, let's say like you get into my car today and I want to know how your day is, like I'm just going to shut the music off entirely. I want it to be dead quiet. I will like ask another question to fill the space. I have no problem with that. Just because I want to like truly engage and you know, speak to someone one-on-one. I hate it when I guess like I said, I do turn on the music, so I guess I don't always like what I do, but like I don't like when people keep music on while we're
in the car
when we're talking at times. Like if I want to know how your day is, like I'm just gonna turn it all the way off, like 0, and I'm cool with silence. So I get how like it does create that awkwardness, but like it just internally I just go, oh, it's just time to ask another question, or like
people feel more comfortable actually when there's music playing to have a conversation, even if you turn it to like 2.
Okay, yeah,
you know what I mean, like where it's so quiet but you can still hear it.
Yeah,
it's almost like a background.
Yeah.
I've at least found that, even because when the gym, let's say the Wi-Fi is like in and out, and we use Sonos, so it's all based off Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
It's so funny because you'll be training all these people and then there's no music. It's like huffing and puffing and you're just trying to talk to make it not awkward, because then you're just standing there. Yeah,
I remember working at F45 and I did the morning classes and the music wasn't working like
one day or something.
The whole whole, I think the whole day it just didn't end up working, but we had 4 classes in the morning, and that last class my manager comes in to kind of take over or help out with the last class and then take over like the day. And he was like, hey, there's no music. What have you been doing? And I just yelled the whole time, because I didn't like, you just listen to people like grunting and huffing and puffing, and sometimes they complain here or there, which is great because it fills the space. So instead I just yelled. So my voice was done. I was just yelling the whole time, trying to make people feel comfortable and used to loud. But it was one of those kind of awkward experiments where people had to engage with each other a lot more to fill the void that they were used to. And that's what they wanted to do. Like everyone wanted to try and sing or get me to sing, and they would put in requests and I would try and if I knew the song, sure. But for the most part, I just yelled a lot.
Yeah, I've always made jokes like, who's going to sing for us?
Oh, yeah.
And we just try to, make it a little fun in a way. I've had it, dude, where complete power outage. Mm-hmm. The whole gym is dark. People are in there working out.
Yeah.
I'm playing music off my phone. I'm like walking around, like put in a cup to like make it sound a little bit. Yeah. I'm walking around with my phone in my hand, playing whatever music I can find.
Yeah.
With no Wi-Fi, and it's funny. Yeah, it's one of those things where, and I think that's the thing where I kind of want to go. It's kind of a little bit tied in, but things that you can't control in life.
Okay.
There's a lot of things in life that things happen, and how you react to them really depends on you as the individual.
Mm-hmm.
But are there any experiences or things that you have found that you have done to really help with not letting those things affect you when they're out of your control? Or is there any tactics or anything? It's kind of an interesting transition, but
Yeah.
what you just going off of that, what we were saying about controlling things and when things go out of our control. So,
I think in the beginning, like for me, it's just as best you can, because obviously some situations are far more dire or different and, you know, thrust things upon you in a more powerful way where it's not always easy, but just recognizing that the situation that is happening is out of your control first.
Well, yeah.
And then as best you can, because
when it depends on, everyone has a different, like what you might think is a dire situation, I might not, or what, you know.
But usually like when that, like just as a person being thrust into something where it's happening to you, you're not really trying to think of what level this might feel for someone else. Just gaining, I guess, trying to learn how to recognize it. And that comes with, so for me, I guess to kind of preface that, a lot of the things that I've learned from and stuff is I just like to read or audiobooks on that stuff. So just trying to gain a little bit of wisdom that you can try and hopefully remember and apply to that given situation. Or you're then recognizing within yourself, like, oh, I do tend to, you know, react with sadness in this, or react with anger in this, or just you get your reactions in things that you weren't expecting. So then in those moments, again, you can at least go, okay, how am I feeling? And is this in my control? And then you can try and keep them at bay, or not even at bay. You try and give them as much freedom as is necessary in the situation and allow them to pass if they just need to pass, or think on it for a moment and then move forward, depending on if it's if you're feeling really reactive or not. So yeah, a lot of what I do is just from what I've read or listened to. Because again, a lot of I learned a lot through observation, more than being the first person to just jump into everything. So I, like, if I can recall something from a movie or from a TV show or a book I read,
you try to utilize it.
Just that's where the jumping into it and gaining that experience would then come from. But just first observing how other people reacted in those situations. And even with that, just knowing like, oh, this situation is so different and I don't really know how to react, but I can at least know that other people have been in this situation and I don't necessarily have to repeat what they did, because that might not be genuine to me. It might not be what helps me, but I can at least rest assured, not knowing a thing, that other people have been in this situation or something similar. And that can at least put my nerves at ease, going, okay, what do I got to do next? How do I got to think about how I'm feeling next? Or just trying to gain tools to recognize things. Yeah.
And I think something that might value a lot of people is learning the philosophy of the present moment. Learning like what that actually means. You know, it's easy for me to say, be present, be patient. Don't let the past or the future, you know, dictate. But if you don't actually understand what the present moment is, like what's the philosophy of the present moment? What does being present actually look like? What tools you can have to stay present? It's going to be very hard to stay present. It's like if I'm like, don't eat that, do that workout. It's like, if you don't know how to do a squat and you just go and try to do a squat, obviously you're going to have to practice. But if you don't get anyone to help you or guide you or anything, it's going to take a lot longer for you to master that squat, or just the present as well. You know, if you can read about it, or you can learn about it, or you can practice it, or you can understand it better, or you can see it from a different point of view, or you can talk it out with a friend. There's so many different ways to understand being present. And when it comes down to the understanding of not letting things affect you, technically tomorrow is not guaranteed, and yesterday has already passed. So how do we stay within that premise of life where you're kind of playing limbo. It's like, you know,
you just never know that way, and that's done.
Yeah. And I'm not gonna, I don't want to sound like very, you know, horrible here, but you know, you get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Like a plane could come through this, like,
absolutely. Yeah.
It could just crash and this whole place can blow up.
Yeah.
Right. But likelihood of that happening,
slim,
very slim.
Zero. Yeah.
But it's how do we stay present and not worry about those things? It's almost like, how do you have a tunnel vision of the present moment where your blinders are up sometimes about the future and the present, not our future and the past? Not saying that it's not good to learn from the past, or it's not good to obviously set some things up for your future. But if you're always worrying about either or, it's really going to be hard to stay in the present.
Yeah.
Do you find that with being present in your day to day, do you find that you have a hard time with that? What do you find helps you stay present, or do you have a hard time with that and are not able to really do that at this moment?
Oh, I feel like at this moment in my life, I feel that I've been able to remain pretty present. Yeah. I've kind of gone through a whole year of a lot of change.
Yeah.
So at this moment in my life, like, I feel pretty present. I'm not really, not that daydreaming is bad, but I'm not really, you know, daydreaming about what life could be like 2 months from now or X amount of years if I did this, and this, and not really thinking too much about what was and how great and bad it was and
how could have changed or how could have
not really dwelling on it, more just kind of waking up, going into each day and just trying to make it enjoyable or learn something from it,
move the needle forward each day.
I don't necessarily need to like have that premise of like progressing. I just need to have, it could just be a moment. Like, for me, I think the reason I like to talk to myself is because that's how I kind of remain grounded. It's like, okay, like if I'm going too far into the future or thinking on this one random thought, like, why? And let's talk it out. And normally you wind up going, okay, like right now is still life. And if I'm going to think about this too long, like I'm just going to waste it. And so a trick for me is to just look around and just find something. Like it could be
like a tree,
like that beautiful up north athletic shirt on the wall.
Oh yeah. So gorgeous. Look at that.
Yeah. But no, that's what I would do. I would, like, if I was feeling anxious or I was thinking too much, I would just be like, okay, what's around me right now? I have to tell myself, like, okay, what's here? And normally that kind of resets me. I'm like, okay, I'm back here. How am I feeling? Go through the checklist of, okay, I'm feeling this way or I'm not.
But I think that is moving the needle forward every day.
Oh, yeah,
like, I know you're saying like you don't every day progress, but
I don't necessarily try to aim for that. But yeah, you're right. It's
because showing up and being present, I believe, like moving the needle could be moving it 0.00001%, or it could be moving it up 15%.
Yeah,
depending on how you value and what you see as moving the needle. But I find that even on our toughest days, when we show up, and I don't mean you have to be 100% to show up. You can show up and be 10%.
Yeah.
But if you go, you do what you need to do that day, as shitty as you feel, as down as you feel, as stressed as you feel, as whatever is happening around you, but you do something that somehow moves the needle forward, you will be slowly becoming a better version of yourself.
Yeah, and I think you'll also alleviate a lot of whatever you're going through, or it'll make you feel better in some sense, even if it's not done. Like right now, I'll use schoolwork as an example because like I'm working and technically taking some extra classes. But if I ever am feeling like, oh man, I shouldn't be, sitting here kind of trying to watch TV or being on my phone, like I should do this. What I'll just do is I have that anxious thought and go, okay, I'm just going to do like 10 minutes or I'm just going to open up what I need to be doing and know I should be doing. Do a couple minutes of it and go, okay, can I just do it all right now? Can I do more of it? And to try and get ahead of it, just do a little bit of it each day.
Yeah.
I think for myself, I try to do a little bit of everything each day. I don't really try, and with scheduling, there are some days where you just have to sit down and do, 5 hours of this class, or focus on this thing and go, see this person. There are scheduling things that have to happen. But for me, I think just to be more well-rounded and just more consistent in everything, do it all every day, just in little bits. That's like, I've tried to do that with exercise, instead of, getting my head wrapped around like, oh, I should be doing this many times and this that many times, and it should be for this long. Just try and do something every day. If you're really not feeling it, you can change it to be something that makes you feel better. Like exercise, for example, to kind of make the point. What I've tried to do throughout the beginning of this year is 4 days of 4 days of weights, and then fill it with whatever else. But on like this week, I've done 3, and today's the 4th. But I really just feel like going for a run. Mm-hmm. It's still exercise. It's still something. I'm going to go for a run after this. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to beat myself up that I didn't do 4. But every other day this week, when it's not been like a formal kind of exercise, it's been going for nice long walks, doing mobility and stretching and all that just makes me feel better. So just doing something, and then not beating yourself up about the fact that you didn't do exactly what you were supposed to do. Because otherwise you'd beat yourself up about everything. And I think that's how I approach a lot of things in life. It's just with school, like this coming week, I've got the week off from work. So I've got a reading week, and I will kind of tackle each class a little bit every day. That way, because normally I'd be in class Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays for like 4 hours at a time, which is a drag. And I really feel like I don't have the attention for it. Or this week, when I have the freedom to kind of reframe it, I don't know, do like 2 hours every single day.
Yeah, giving yourself ranges, I think, too.
Yeah, giving yourself ranges. I think it's the freedom to know that it's not going to be like, just the freedom to shape it to what works best for you, to get ahead of things. When you're, I guess the point that we're trying to talk about is when things are out of your control. Yeah, you just gotta, like we've been talking about, think about how to be in the present again, how to get yourself back, how to, for myself, go through a checklist of, all right, if I'm in the present, what's going to pull me back out of it? Because there's something that just did. Is it something that I'm feeling? Is it something that I'm allowing my mind to dwell on? Or is it something else that's just completely out of my control?
Yeah.
Let's determine that. And then give it the time that it needs to, because it obviously needs some sort of attention, because it's pulling you away from here and now. So give it the time and attention that it needs, and then kind of go on from there. And in some things obviously hurt more, or
for sure,
do demand more.
I think it goes based off too, though, like, how do you pivot?
Yeah.
Right? It's not, when things are out of your control, how do you pivot, or how do you make it where it's almost in your control now?
Yeah.
Right? Like,
what's the silver lining?
So I'll give you like the example that we use with the music thing.
Yeah.
Like how I just put it on my phone.
Yeah.
Is it the best scenario? No. Obviously, it would be way better if the music was blaring through the speakers. But when it comes out of your control, how do we pivot to a situation? So when something stressful or something, happens in life, how do you pivot to make it something that now becomes in your control, where it doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but how do you pivot to make it something that actually pushes the needle forward? And that's what I mean by pushing the needle forward. It doesn't mean that you have to become better and better and better and better and like be a different person each single day. It just means when something comes up, how do you make the situation now within that change or within that situation now something that you can push forward through, or how you can make the difference when something unfortunate does happen. And I think pivoting is hard for a lot of people because we are so used to instant gratification. We don't have to really pivot ever in life. Yeah. Like we have been set up in a society where things are so quick and so easy that it's instant. So when pivot happens, it's like, oh my gosh, what do we do? Yeah. Right. Because it takes effort. It's hard. Right. You don't have to leave your house nowadays to get anything. You can get your groceries sent to you. You can literally live a healthy, like, and I put in quotation healthy life, because you can eat nutritiously, you could work out, you could have friends come to your
normal life
without leaving your home. Yeah. Ever. Yeah. And you would have all your necessities. And
everything's there.
Everything would be there. You literally don't have to leave. Yeah. If I had a 10,000 square foot house and it was like a compound and, I wanted...
That's your world. You do not have to exist anywhere else.
I technically wouldn't. Yeah. If that was the case. Do I want to do that? No. Yeah. But in the world we live in now, we can do that. And that has never... Well, from what I understand of history and things, that has never happened, right? Unless there was some time in life where there's that we don't know about or we've never learned about, right? So
yeah, it's definitely one of those times where I think too now, since things are more instantaneous, a lot more things happen. It's like simultaneously in people's lives that isn't necessarily like, it is happening, but it's not necessarily happening now. It's just we were used to, a lot of kind of sensory input. We're used to a lot of things going on all the time. It's not necessarily going on towards us and in our lives at that very moment, but when there's an inconvenience, all of a sudden we're like, oh, well, I've got X, Y, and Z going on right now. I have this, and this. Whereas I would imagine, before our time, when something went wrong, there wasn't a ton else. Like our minds are wired to, like yours and mine are wired to kind of be more continually engaged. Like something's always underlyingly going on. Whereas back then it's like, okay, stop. We just have to stop one or two, maybe three things. Let's figure out the problem, what the pivot is. And it was probably, and this is me making a huge assumption, but it was probably more simple to go, okay, we have to just change the directory or face the problem, whatever it might be. And there's not like, our brains aren't overworking unnecessarily for things that really aren't going on right now.
Yeah. And it ties into patience, man. Yeah. Right? When you're
we have no patience.
Because everything's instant. Yeah. Right. So when you ask, let's say 30, 40 years ago, when you had to mail a letter and wait for that letter. Yeah. People probably had more patience. I'm going to guess they probably had more patience. Yeah. Because it wasn't instant. Right now, if now everything that we do is supposed to be instant, like Amazon, for example, there's never been a time in this world where you can get packaged the next day.
We feel inconvenienced when it's beyond a day or two.
Well, and that's what I try to, man, that's a conversation that I feel like I have every single day with people. And I understand, because I was at that point too, where it's like, I want everything now. Yeah. I want my body. I want this. I want money. I all want it just now. Like I've been at that point. But as I've learned, and I find that I've learned it more because I've talked to so many people that have also experienced it and that are going through it now. But you lose a lot of the joy of the journey, where when you're so worried about not having it now. Yeah. Right. It's like if I'm so worried about having it the next day, that day when it comes, I didn't actually enjoy any of those, because I'd wake up, worry about not having it. Next day, wake up, worry about not having it. And then as I keep going through, and that's where a lot of people give up, right? They're just not, a lot of times it has to do with not being patient enough with the process.
Yeah.
Right. Because if maybe, and I always try to give the example, if I was like, you would have your dream job, your dream body, your dream, whatever. From 5 years, I told you in 5 years, I guarantee I have a magic ball. I know that in 5 years you would have it. Would you be patient enough to wait 5 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's because I'm telling you, I'm guaranteeing it. But when you don't have that,
there.
When it's not there, when there's no guarantee, or there's no really anyone telling you,
so it's open ended. Like there's no
it
answer.
It is 100%. You could get it in 2 years.
Yeah.
You could technically get it in a week. Who knows, really, right? But it's really, and that's something that's really hard. And if more people would be able to understand that, I really think that people would be a lot happier. And I'm not saying that happiness has to tie in with patience, but when you're always worried about not having something, like you're always thinking of something that is not.
Yeah, you're not appreciating what's actually going on.
Yeah, you're not appreciating what's going around you. So I think it causes a lot of unhappiness.
Yeah.
And happiness is, man, I think
we could go deeper into the rabbit hole because it probably relates to comparison and it relates to all the things that go on with how our lives are very, very uberly connected in ways that are probably unhealthy.
When they say like striving for happiness is actually a negative thing.
Yeah. Because
it's when you're always trying to strive for something that, like, if you're always striving to be happy, well, there's obviously something like that you're not actually working on to create that, right? And happiness is, I think, a byproduct of showing up, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't wake up every day happy.
No. No, not always.
But we don't, and that's, what the interesting is when we're anxious, or when people are anxious, do you ever hear people say, thank you? Like, even if they're religious, or they're like to the universe or themselves or whatever, they're like, thank you for being anxious.
No,
never. Everyone but what I've been trying to do, and this has actually helped me, is like, I'm grateful for feeling that. And I know that sounds really like probably weird to a lot of people, but when you're grateful for feeling what we quote unquote a negative feeling, and again, negative feeling is,
subjective.
It's very subjective, right? Just because society has deemed it negative, why does it become negative?
Yeah.
It's because of how we feel, right? Anxiety doesn't really feel the best, but if I'm worried about something, or I'm sad or something, it's because usually there's a lesson to be learned, right? And you can see a lot of positive in that. And I think that's where we as a society, we try to shut those down. It's like, no, we can't feel that. If we feel it, then we must be doing something wrong.
Well, that kind of relates back to like how you might deal with something under your control, or like how I at least deal with like anxiety.
Yeah.
When I have that feeling of like, oh, I should be doing something different, I'm going to give it a little bit of time. It also, for me, I sometimes like those feelings because it's a reminder of like, oh yeah, I should be doing something a little bit different right now that would probably benefit me in the long run. So I'm going to go do it. And more often than not, just recently, because it is kind of more related to the schoolwork that I've been doing. Initially, it starts off as like 30 minutes. Okay, cool. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I'm like getting the hang of this. I'm kind of like, I'm understanding it. I'm learning it. I'm not necessarily like enjoying the topic because it's not something I think I'll kind of really continue with down the road, but it was just cool to learn something. But all of a sudden I can recognize like, oh, like it's at least like clicking, and I can feel that positive building from like, oh, it's going a way that is good. But even if it isn't, after I've done 30 minutes and I continue and just try and push through, all of a sudden I've done maybe 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then I feel so much better because I'm like, okay, I've done something. Now I don't feel guilty about, doing anything that I want to do to relax or to like not really, push my like achievements forward in life, but just for my own pure sake of joy or anything else, I feel so much better. I'm like, I like having days in the week. Like this week, I think Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I was so hyper focused on, getting ahead on school, getting all my assignments done, going to work, still trying to exercise, still trying to do all this stuff, that when Wednesday came around, I finished my day at work and I was like, cool, I've done what I've needed to do for most of this half of the week. And the latter half, I don't have the same kind of schedule. So I'm going to enjoy the moment. Like I've done the work I need to do. I feel that I've kind of worked my mind. I've worked, I've exercised. I'm not going to beat myself up now that I'm going to go home and watch a movie on a Wednesday night.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try and make it complicated by, I should be doing this. I should read. I should journal. I'm just going to go home. I'm going to watch a movie for 2 hours and then I might watch some more TV and just enjoy the fact that, I did whatever I needed to do. Now I have some downtime. I'm not going to waste that downtime because I know prior to the beginning of this year, my last job ended, it ended in October. So I had, more or less October, November, December off. So I had an ample amount of time, but my anxiety came from like, I'm not doing anything. And now I have all this time where I feel like I'm wasting it. But I think early on, I also recognized during that period, like this is probably a time where it's okay to not have a ton to do like you were doing. And as long as you do enough, you will have more work to do in the future. And that was pretty clear early on. Like I knew I was going to go back for some sort of schooling. I was going to try and look for a better job. And again, all things well out of my control aside from school. Like I can register, I can pay for all that, but a lot of it was out of my control as to like when, what, where. So it was just realizing, okay, this might be a moment in my life where things are slower. Don't beat yourself up if you are, sitting around more, if you're not necessarily like pushing the achievements you think you should be doing already or have done. And with hindsight, like it worked out.
Yeah.
It worked out. And then it also made me more comfortable towards doing more work.
Well,
so yeah.
Yeah, no, and there's a really importance about what you said about doing something when you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Actually,
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
There was what this came from was
Andrew Huberman?
No.
Oh, I was gonna say something about that, but
well, yeah, you can maybe it relates to this, but no, it came from an English teacher in high school.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Turner.
Okay.
And because I think I took English like the last semester of high school.
Yeah. So
we were just going to university and he was just kind of going on about, we have this, I think it was the the last thing in English 12 in our high school was you had to do a research paper.
Okay.
And it was like worth a pretty large sum of your grade. And I don't remember when along this project that he mentioned it, but he said a lot of you are probably going to go to university. And he's like, I just want to put something out there. But he prefaced it with how many of you like break down your week and you do this, this, and this every single day, or you segment days, and mostly, like myself included, we're like, yeah, like once we know this is due, you should probably work on it, this, this, and this. He went, that wasn't me. That wasn't me at all. I did really well in university, but I procrastinated. And I recognized that I was a procrastinator and I used it to my advantage. And I needed to feel some sort of like, I needed to feel
stress.
The pressure. He's like, I needed to feel it. And then when I wouldn't fight myself. I would just do it. And so every now and then, that's that same feeling of like, oh, I should be doing something different. Sometimes I do wait to where I really feel it. I try not to get overly anxious about it. I don't like fight it, or I try not to. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, it's like, okay, I recognize that that's the pressure. let's go and do it.
Yeah, some people actually do that. Like they like to put themselves under pressure to finish a deadline.
Yeah.
Like, it's like it almost gives them a sense of purpose.
Yeah, you got to learn when that's useful, when it's not, because obviously with huge projects or huge
you don't want to be like waiting the last minute.
Yeah, in some cases you have to do parts and submit it.
Yeah.
But in other cases, if you know that there's no real demand beforehand, or this is something that you can tackle in whatever amount of time, wait. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, there's a few things like I'm going to touch on. Sometimes too, it's like best as soon as you get it to do it, because it's freshest in your mind, but also too, you probably, once you get an assignment, you don't want to do it right away.
Yeah.
Like when you're like, you have to do this assignment, you're probably, and I'm talking about everything in life, not just school. I'm talking about workout, whatever. Yeah. It's like, do it right away. Do it when you don't want to do it, and you'll find that you'll feel better about it. But also too, what I was going to touch on about the podcast with Andrew, it was with Andrew Huberman. I think it was David Goggins.
Okay, yeah.
Was on. I'm pretty sure this is the one that I heard.
Yeah.
They had talked about, there's a part of the brain that when you do something that you don't want to do, it actually increases in size.
Oh, interesting.
And that has to do something to do with like tie in with your willpower and your discipline. And that part of the brain increases when you do something that you don't want to. And then when you don't do the things, it actually starts to decrease. So they say that with people that are very disciplined and have a lot of willpower, that part of the brain is really, really big. Like it's not, I don't mean
some
like
sort of relation to like reward response.
Yeah. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. So, and it's pretty recent apparently, but I always think of that now.
Yeah.
That, hey, I see why there's certain people that, and I don't think there's any secret formula. I really think it's just showing up. Like just doing it when you don't want to do it. I don't like, I think there's all these people out there that are like the secret success too. And it's like, no, it's just like, it's just showing up when you don't want to show up.
Yeah. And it's not even necessarily showing up well all the time. It's
it's just showing up.
Yeah. It's
that's what kind of goes back to that 10%.
Kind of the cliche of like showing up is 90% of the work.
Well, yeah. Like how many times have you probably gone somewhere you didn't maybe want to go somewhere, and then you go there and then you end up doing it and you're like, it wasn't that bad.
Yeah. Oh, I remember having this conversations with my parents all the time when I was a kid, where it's like, you'll feel better when it's done. And I'm like, will I? And then when it's done, it's like, oh yeah, I feel good. But it would happen, often as a kid, where I'm like, I don't, like, I'd rather go do this instead of this. And you're like, why?
Yeah. I think
you're trying to ask a kid.
It's hard it's really hard as a kid, man. It's like, and that's why I've had parents come up to me and they say like, oh, I want my kid to work out. I want them to do this. And and I even look back when my mom would say like, oh, Jeremy, you should go work out. And I'm like,
yeah,
this isn't how fun.
No, I remember. I mean, we had, my siblings and I all had choices, but there was always the rule of there was no, like, you had to do something physical, you had to do something creative and or mental, and then obviously you still had school. But outside of school, like you had to be doing some sort of exercise, non-negotiable. Like there was no, that just wasn't an option there.
Yeah.
But there was the freedom of like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. Like if you wanted to just walk, go walk.
But just move your body somehow.
Yeah, there was always that demand of move your body, and then usually it related to like go study, or like if you want to paint or draw or whatever, something just to kind of stimulate things as a kid. And it worked. I mean, all like my siblings and I think all of us through 12 years or 12 grades did all that. Turned out fine.
Yeah, this kind of ties into like, what are you willing to really sacrifice for something, right? I think, we look back, like even for me when I played college baseball, and I looked at there was a point where I had the opportunity to keep going or I stopped.
Yeah.
And I looked at the sacrifices that I was willing to make, and I don't regret stopping, but at the time I didn't understand what I know now. And, I had a lot of injuries and things that were kind of, it's just, and that's something that I also too, that I maybe at the time I just wasn't willing to sacrifice. Like I wasn't willing to feel in pain anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that's what a lot of people don't understand about either these athletes or these people that they envision as either their role models, the sacrifices these people are willing to make. And, a lot of people are like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a billionaire. I want to have all this. But then when the time comes to sacrifice sleep, sacrifice your health, sacrifice your family, sacrifice, like they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where objectively you have to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. And I
truly honest with yourself.
I think from what I've noticed, just like people I've worked with, or I guess I can't even say what I've seen online recently because I don't really go online. Yeah. But before that, like before this year, I think it's absolutely true that you have to be honest. And it's okay if you don't want to be a millionaire.
Yeah, that's
I think
that is totally fine. Like I think that's the issue is that
I think that's a huge thing that at least I've noticed and other people, where there's just more of a trend where people are the honesty is a part of it all, but the trend is either like I want to really, really work hard and strive towards like achieving as much as possible, which is fantastic. And then there's also the side, which I think I fall into more, where
I think I'm the opposite of you.
Where it's like I'm going to like I want to work towards what I want to work towards, but I like balance.
Yeah,
like,
see,
I love like I there are obviously going to be times where things, aren't balanced.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I don't need to be a millionaire. I want to earn a livable income.
Yeah, you want to enjoy life,
but
and
like
do things like that.
I want as much vacation time as possible.
Yeah, you want to be able to travel and
I like to travel. I like to have time outside of work where I'm learning about other things. I'm working out. I'm seeing friends and family and having that a part of my life. Mm-hmm. But you're absolutely right. Like you have to know what you want. Otherwise you'll feel tormented or you'll feel out of place. You probably won't get what you're looking for either way. But I've noticed at least a lot of people that are like, oh, my 9 to 5, like I want it to be balanced. Like I want maybe a little less work. I want after work hobbies, which is like what I'm trying to sort out. Like
I think my work is my hobby.
But for once, like I'm close to where I work. I'm not wasting 3 hours of my day driving. I can actually have a hobby now after work. This is fantastic.
No, I know, I understand. And I think that's the thing too. I think people, it's not a bad thing if that's how you see yourself.
No, not at all. Like if you want to like go become a billionaire, like absolutely do it.
Just know what you have to sacrifice.
Just know what you have to sacrifice. And I don't think it's bad. Like I'll support whoever, like if you want to become a billionaire, like I'm all in, man. Like I'll support you here and there. I won't see you that much.
We'll go wherever you want.
I probably won't see you that much, or I'll like just be sitting in the corner while you do some work. But I'll be there.
When I am a billionaire.
I'll be there.
I realistically, for most, not saying that being a billionaire is not realistic.
Yeah.
There's people out there that are billionaires.
Fill in the gaps there. Yeah.
Yeah. I do think becoming a millionaire is more realistic.
Yeah.
Right. Or 6 figures is more realistic.
Yeah.
Right. It really depends too on what kind of lifestyle you want.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. If you don't want to see, this is where it's different nowadays too, though. We live in a day where we can make money pretty much anywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be in person all the time to make money. But I think a lot of people still think that they can make quick, easy money without working at it.
Oh yeah.
Because there's because there's those one-offs, man. You don't hear the stories
that just get over exaggerated. And
do you know how many stories people have failed of either like crypto investing, they failed, or stocks, or they failed at, you don't hear those stories.
No.
And there's way more of those stories than success stories. I'm telling you that right now.
Yeah.
Not saying that you can't become that person or that that's not possible. Or YouTuber, like being an influencer was never a job 10 years ago.
No.
Now people are, in quotations, influencers, and that's their job.
Yeah, and they're just normal people.
Yeah, but what I'm getting at too is that people have now, like, they're like, I want my job to be an influencer.
Oh yes, they're striving for that career path.
Which I'm saying is, like, if that's something you want to do, okay, but also you have to understand how many other people have tried that and have failed. Mm-hmm. And
it's become like a normal field. Like if you want to go be a doctor.
Well, that's what they're saying is, like, a lot of people are not becoming doctors or lawyers or
nurses,
financial advisors or nurses or plumbers or electricians. It's now shifting for, like, how can we make quick, easy money in this field in this world
for less strenuous work.
Well, because it's instant gratification again.
Yeah, it is. I would say a lot of it, in terms of like those kinds of jobs, depending on the field, obviously, and like kind of your region, but they're stressful.
Yeah,
they demand, not that you obviously have to work hard as a content creator, but I think because it has that, like you said, that one-off appeal where some of the details remain to be.
We're not saying these people don't work hard.
No, I know.
There's some people like influence. They never even thought of becoming an influencer. They just were creating content to create content.
But with like traditional jobs, like, you know what it entails. Like, it's day in, day out.
Yeah.
There's no way of breaking that mold, really, unless I'd say you more or less have to go through that mold, and then you create a different kind of setup for yourself, which is great, but that takes time and effort. Yeah. I think with content, like being an influencer, because it is still relatively new and you don't really know the whole scale of it all, you can kind of fantasize it.
Yeah.
Where you're like, oh, like so-and-so does it, and now they make, $15,000 a month, and this is all they do. But you don't get, like you said, you don't get the whole story of how long it's taken them to do it, whatever, because it's just not as as traditional and concrete in its foundation that this is how it's done. This is what it entails every single day. As clear as traditional jobs where, and
your hours,
your hours, you like,
yeah, dude, like, I
know the strains.
And that's the thing I think that people don't understand is, I'll just use me as an example right now is, I'm the little bit of an opposite at this moment in my life than you are. What about the balancing? Mm-hmm. Do I still see my family? Yes. Do I still see friends at time? Yes. Do I go out and drink? No, I don't party. I can't even remember the last time I did any of that.
Yeah.
I try to go to events and things like hockey games, or when I can. Obviously, there's some sort of balance, but if I look at my balance, it's probably like 80% work, 20% the other things.
Yeah,
and it's constant. It's day in and day out. But that's not what people usually see. They see the follower count that you got. They see the video that you posted. They don't see all the kind of the work that goes into it, right?
Mm-hmm. They don't see it being posted at 9 p.m. in the evening.
Yeah, or they don't know that and I'm using this just an example, but from Monday to today's Saturday, but Monday to Friday, I probably was at the gym for doing something business-wise for 50 hours, let's say, throughout Monday to Friday, 50 to... And then now we're podcasting today. We're going to do another podcast after.
Yeah.
And then tomorrow I'm going to be doing check-ins on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's 7 days in a row of doing something that has towards business. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying that because when I talk to people and they're trying to start a business and they're like, I'm working at my business once a week. I'm like, that's awesome. If you're doing 0 and now you're doing 1, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But then they're like, but I want to become a millionaire or I want to be making $10,000 a month. And I'm like, okay, well, working 1 day a week
ain't gonna cut
it's
it.
not in some, like I said, your one-offs maybe,
Yeah.
but most of the time working that one day is not gonna.
Well, I would say even to like continue after your lucky lottery win of one-off, you still have to, unless you're wise enough to know that it was a one-off and you can just kind of cruise on it, cool. But I would also imagine you still have to show up afterwards.
Yeah.
If you actually wanted it to like amount to what you want it to be.
Well, then that's exactly it. And that's just the reason I'm giving that example is because it also has been something that has been working like in the midst of working through things. So it's, if you've only been doing it for a year, you're a baby at the industry. Yeah. Not that you haven't learned anything or that you're not good at what you're doing, but
in most cases, that's pretty green.
Yeah, it's pretty. You're just beginning.
Yeah.
Right. And even in my experience, I've been doing this now for about 8 years, and I still have so much to learn and so much to do. Do I understand how business works? Do I understand how nutrition, how fitness, how like to become quote unquote successful? Yes, I've been now long enough doing it, but it doesn't mean that the growth of the business can't be something different, or it can't be, bigger, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Right. Bigger's subjective as well.
Yeah.
But that's where I try to explain to people that are very ambitious in starting a business or doing something that has that even if you are doing a 9-to-5, you can still have a successful business.
Yep.
Like on the side.
Yeah.
Right. If that's what you're willing to put in. Right. A lot of times people's hobbies actually become their business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Like they start as a hobby, and then all of a sudden it's like, ooh, maybe they're making some money. And then, then they end up quitting their 9-to-5 to pursue now their hobby. And now their hobby is making them X amount of dollars. And then they keep progressing from there.
Yeah.
But it just it literally goes down to what you want to do and how much time you want to invest in it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, and just like how we started, just how honest you want to be with yourself and what you want to do.
One is productive time too. I shouldn't just say I shouldn't say if you spend 10 hours a day on your business and it's not productive time, or
you might not always be paying attention to what you're doing.
Yeah, then that's different.
Yeah, twiddling your thumbs doesn't count for the hour and a half you did it during that 10 hours.
Yeah, that is not going towards your business, even if you put an X amount of time on it. But most of the times, this is really the biggest advice for anything in life, is if you show up and you do it when you don't want to do it, it'll
probably help you down the road.
Yeah, and you quote unquote would probably see some form of success.
Yeah, or even like taking achievements out of it entirely. The silver lining is like you did it when you didn't want to. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, man. Like that should make you feel a little bit better. Just a bit. Or at least like you can do that again in a situation where it's maybe a little bit more important or whatever. And it doesn't necessarily have to be towards like something. You could just just take that win for yourself where you're like, cool, I did that. Right on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, that's the one. I think that's the one thing with even people. I know we're in our 20s, mid 20s.
Yeah. Late 20s. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess mid to late, I guess. But this even applies to people that are older.
Yeah.
Because the amount of, so my experience, and I can't really talk for you because I don't know every conversation you've had with every single person in your life.
It's okay. But you can still speak on
I know it. I should though, right? No. Even talking to people that are older than me, or have experience, or have kids, or have a family, or obviously priorities change when those things happen.
Yeah.
But allocating time to your passion, if that's either a business or something, it is possible. But now it comes down to patience again. If you started when you were 20 and had all the time in the world, when you didn't have the other responsibilities, in theory, you probably will get there faster, just because now you're putting more time in than you would if you were in, let's say, your 40s, have family, have this, have that.
Yeah.
Because you just don't have as
you
much.
have more resources.
Yeah, your time is allocated way differently.
Yeah.
So going on that, it still is something that you can pursue. Mm-hmm. And it's something, if that's what that's going to make you fulfilled, and it's purpose. That's what it is nowadays. I feel like a lot of us don't have, I feel like I have purpose in what I do, but talking to most people nowadays, they feel like they don't have purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. It could come from, finding a job that just pays you for what you do, or, you were uncertain and wound up where you're at, or maybe it's not even work related. It could be just everything outside of the work where you're just doing things to do them and you're not really aware of why. But I could also guess that once you're at a certain age, like older, and let's say you've had kids, you're kind of back to like, that's not the exact same energy level, but you're back to the same amount of time you would have had when you were in your 20s and didn't have these responsibilities. Like when your kids are grown up, you're probably back in that same window of like, okay, I got time again where I'm not thinking about these kids, but you're older, probably more wise. Hopefully you've learned. You just might not have the same energy level. You might have the barrier of like, oh, can I even do this again or start this now? Which might be a different side of the same coin for someone who's starting out in their 20s, where it's like, can I do this? Do I have the resources? Just the different side of it. But I imagine that's something that comes up for a lot of older people.
Yeah, well, yeah. You're talking about kind of where we talk about change and pivoting, right?
Yeah.
If your kid gets sick.
Oh yeah, when you're having a kid, like when you have kids.
When you have a kid, like, but that goes into pivoting.
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean, and I don't have kids personally, but I've talked to a lot of people that have kids.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden when you have to stay home with them and your entire day is changed.
It's changed. How can you pivot?
Still be productive or do what you intended?
But it doesn't mean you still have to be as productive as if you were before. It could mean that, instead of filming the 20 videos that you had,
on
planned,
Tuesday, you do it on Saturday.
Or you write the captions, or you do something that's what you didn't have planned, or something that could be towards the goal. It doesn't mean that it has to be totally changed. And that also could mean that day you just don't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, we make sure your kid's okay.
Yeah. Like, and I think that's where that
I imagine, because I want kids, but I don't have kids. When your kid's sick, you should probably make it seem that they're the priority. Like I think at least what I would do is I would demonstrate like, hey, you are my priority.
Yeah.
Everything else does come second. And I'm going to do my best to model, still trying to get something done if possible. But I'll also model if I'm not in the mood or it's really going to be detrimental, that it's okay that things didn't get done today.
Yeah.
I mean, the kid might not be old enough to be aware of it or anything.
Yeah, we don't know.
But I think if you do it enough in those times where things happen, kids are observant enough.
Yeah, and I'm going to say too, if it's a teenager versus a very young kid versus, like, there's so many different situations here. And again, we're not parents, so I'm talking from experience, from talking to people.
Yeah.
We're
making some assumptions here.
Yeah. I've talked to hundreds of parents.
Thousands.
Probably, honestly, probably thousands. Like, legit, probably thousands over the year. Like, if I look at the last 8 to 9 years, I've probably talked to thousands of parents.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I will have that same understanding or experience because I don't have a kid. Mm-hmm. No matter what I am told, but from what I hear, from the amount of people that have said either the same thing or have said the same thing in a different way, that those things are always going to probably be the hardest things to do, because when from what I understand, when you have a kid, a lot of things change in the way of how you experience life now. It's not really about per se. It is about you, but not at the same time. It's about protection and making sure that they're okay, and making sure, and that's from what I understand, a lot of it has been. But I don't really think you'll really truly understand being a parent until you physically have a kid in your arms, or physically
I agree.
Feel that situation. So
I agree.
It's pretty crazy to think. But also too, nowadays, man, you can not, like, kids are the decline of having kids is going down. Not as many people are having kids. I think there was a stat, Canada Statistics Canada. I'll talk for Canada right now, but it was like 1.3 kids per female.
Okay. Yeah.
So it went down from, that was for 2022 apparently.
Yeah, it would have been
so
the year they collected everything. Yep.
So it'd be, I'm like, damn. It went from, I think, 1.7 or something, and then it's been declining each year.
Yeah, I believe it.
I believe it's gonna go under 1 at some point in our lifetime. I don't know if it's gonna keep going higher.
Well, I think I told you this a while ago, and again, I'm taking it from somewhere that I listened to, where I think it's South Korea faces in 3 generations, where it's 1 kid for every 4 like grandparent age citizens. So it's based, I think, or maybe it's great grandparents, because it's like a 96% decrease is what it's projected to be. I mean, whether it turns out to be or not, who knows? But they're facing significant declines in birth rates, and it comes with I think a lot of countries that have a lot of an older generation, and the middle gap is thinning, and no one's having kids in the younger gap, so it's gonna just kind of bottleneck, and who knows what we'll be left with. But I know, like, for us, none of our friends have had kids.
Oh, we've known people.
Yeah, we know people that we went to high school with, but even amongst our entire grad class, like, it's still not very many.
And I think I
could count them probably on maybe a bit over 2 hands.
But I think that's the direction that people are having kids later. Yeah. Even if you live out here, like, it's expensive to live here. Yeah, you're dealing with a whole socioeconomic. So now, like, do you bring in a kid to the world, and you are already struggling as either you're single or you have a partner, or, to bring a kid into the mix is financially hard for a lot of people. Yeah. What kind of life do you want to have for that kid is the question. Go down to sacrifice. Well, yeah, there's that. Yeah, but in terms of like, what are you willing to sacrifice for it? Well, what kind of life? Just what can you put up economically? Well, 100%, right? So if it's, and actually, my cousin is going to be having a baby. That's right. Yeah. So it's going to be, and she's younger than I am. She's pretty close, isn't she then? Because it's been, you told me that a while ago. Okay. There's a lot happening in May with my family. Holy moly. But anyways. There'll be a new baby? Yeah, a wedding. Oh, there's a wedding. There's a baby. There's uncle from Switzerland's coming out in May. Oh, there we go. May's going to be hectic. May's going to be a good month. Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be good. A lot of family time. Yeah. Right. But no, even going on that, it's just like, I believe that nowadays, I think a lot of people are waiting longer. I'm just talking from perspective, someone my age, but is because either they're not financially there to feel like they can have a kid. And I also think a lot of people nowadays are not getting married as much anymore either. And a lot of people are trying to pivot on understanding. I think a lot of people that are younger are also trying to work on themselves first. A lot, yeah. I think that's starting to pivot a little bit, right? Instead of going like finding someone to marry, having kids, then trying to find out kind of who you are, what your purpose is. We're doing it in the reverse, I find a lot of times.
Well, I can speak for myself right now. It's more like, okay, do I know who I am? I got to know who I am. And not to say that I have a ton of like lingering questions, but just trying to gain as much experience. And I'm never going to know when that's enough. But that definitely is a pertinent thing where the question is like, okay, like, who am I? What do I want? Like trying to just figure out me as best I can. And I think I've done a pretty good job. So if something were to just spring up, it's like, okay, like I think I can make it work. But it's still going to be an ongoing question, ongoing thing to always search for and discover and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's a huge component of our generation's way of living, especially in our 20s and even into our 30s now. There's no real, the idea of a timeline is kind of doesn't really, people don't put those restraints on themselves anymore as much.
Well, I think too the technology and surgeries and everything has just changed. Like, I find like each kind of either decade or every 5 years, you're able to have a kid like a little bit
later. Yeah.
A little bit later. A little bit later. A little bit later. A little bit later. Like it's progressively getting a little bit.
Yeah.
From my understanding, I haven't really done any dug deep of just from talking to people, experiences. Yeah. It seems like that at least.
Yeah. It does seem that way. I think we're still going to be probably caught in the whole, things just don't advance as fast as we would ever hope. So we'll probably still be caught in the whole, you should have a kid within this healthy range. And again, it's more for women than it is for you and I. But I'm sure that'll still be a thing to think about. But there'll be things there medically, I would imagine, to assist in, just like you said, things have advanced. Probably will be things there. Things are in place. They're just expensive.
Well, yeah. And I think too, going back to this whole like figuring yourself out or trying to understand, I think a lot of people are either working like themselves or work right now. Like that's on their top priority list at a younger age sometimes.
I think it's just part of the social norm. Like that's just a huge component of what social media is. That's, I'd say, a majority of it. It's like, are you working towards being the best you, whether that's your business, yourself, your hobbies?
Well, it's comparison. There's so much comparison.
That's just
which I think a lot of people are doing out of fear too. That's why.
Yeah, but it's just a part of everyone's life, whether they are aware of it or not.
Yeah.
And that's not something that generations before had to the same extent. So for us, I would say it's probably an overemphasis on like, are you progressing in life? Are you achieving the achievements you need to or you want to? Has had a major impact on like when things happen in a normal lifespan for us. That's why not very many people are having kids as early or at all, not getting married as early or at all, because there's just an overwhelming emphasis on you. You, how you feel, what you're doing. It's just always there.
See, and that's why I find that I don't try to post things that are super personal.
Yeah.
Not because I don't want to or that I don't think the person or things are not worthy to be posted, which is so silly, like sounds so silly to say when I say it out loud. But I also feel like a lot of people post things to like highlight reels. Like it's like, like look at my wedding, look at my kid, look at my whatever it is.
Yeah, there are definitely people who want to put it out into the public what their life is.
Yeah, like look at my vacation, look at my car, look at my and I don't know if that's something that will either harm. Well, I have understand. I feel like it will harm later down the road. Maybe not right now.
I don't think it's necessarily the most beneficial thing.
I think in your 20s, you can kind of get away with it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because once you start to kind of separate a little bit from those other people, right? So, I'm even seeing it now as we reach kind of our late 20s, early 30s. You're starting to see like a split. Mm-hmm. You're starting to see some of the people that are still our age that are partying still, doing drugs, still doing the exact same things they were doing 10 years ago and haven't changed. And then you're starting to see more people drift kind of towards the more health route, more business route, and and everyone's at a different, obviously, path, but you're starting to see that little bit of split. And I think when you're in that age group, you have that flexibility to almost do that. But then as you slowly get older and older, I think less people are going to care about it.
Oh, yeah. No, I think less people will care about it because it's something that's totally programmed to just our generation, where you'll just have people who grow out of it and go, okay, I don't want to say everyone thinks about it in this way, but I'll make the assumption that you worry about, when did I last post? Or like, what did I last post?
Or you see someone post something and then you want to feel gratification as well. So
there's
you
that.
post something.
There's
as well, right?
the unconscious recognition that you're comparing amongst that person and whatnot. I think for us, I think we'll grow out of it, and I think it's really just stuck with our generation, like a little bit of a millennial, but like our generation. I mean, for me, the personal reason that I just don't do it, I mean, the reason I don't have Instagram is I just like to, I don't want my life to be a mystery to other people, but I want to have other people's lives to be a mystery. So when I see them,
you have something to talk about.
I have everything to talk about.
Yeah.
And I have also everything to explain too. Like if they have questions, there's not that idea that, they should have seen it, or I should have seen it, or that even the awkward, like, oh, did you see it? It's totally just, what has your life been like? How are you doing? Let's sit down and talk. Like hopefully for a long time, because I want to know as much as I can, and I'd like to provide as much on my life as I can. But even if it's quick, like I enjoy that so much more than going, I saw this post. Starting a conversation with, I saw this sometimes is a good way to segue into things, but I don't want to act like I know your life.
Yeah.
And I don't want you to act like you know mine. And I think that's something that I've noticed where, and it's probably what a lot of other generations naturally grew up with, where people lead different lives and you just don't know what's going on. But for us, we can still play the card of, I think I know what's going on in their life because I saw X, Y, and Z online. Mm-hmm. When it's probably not even close to the case. It's just what you saw briefly.
Well, I think it's good that we're talking about this because I've definitely heard people say like millennials are getting lazy and they're, they're not, they don't want to work. They don't. And as someone who is a millennial, like I think we're categories as that. No, we're not.
I think we're Gen X.
Oh, are we?
Yeah, I think so.
But what's millennial?
I think up to 96.
Okay, so we're close.
We're the cutoff. I think I looked it up not too long.
So let's just whatever. I don't honestly. I think those Gen Z, all this thing. I think it's silly, to be honest. I don't. Okay. I think just as if you're a human, you're human. It doesn't matter when you're born.
Born in 97.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I don't think that really. It's the whole like.
We'll eliminate the specificity there.
Yeah. It's
don't
just,
worry.
But as if we're in a category, right? Like, let's say, we're all these groups now are in these categories: Gen Z, Gen X, Gen W, whatever is happening nowadays. I don't even know.
Yeah.
But from what I hear from people that are, let's say, older than us, sometimes they're like, well, we can't find anyone to work. Nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to do these things. And as someone who like runs his own business, someone who works more than I do anything else, I don't know if it's per se that's not who we like, what our generation is. I think it's more of the fact that what we're talking about is just our shift on how we are approaching things in life. And I do believe that there's lazy people our age.
Yeah.
Don't give me any age group. There's lazy people.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're 60, you're 70, you're 40, you're 30, you're 20.
Well,
there's going to be lazy.
Catch me on a Saturday when I have nothing to do. I'll watch movies, TV, anime all day long. Yeah. And if you caught me then, I'd be lazy, and I would admit to it. I'd be like, yeah, I feel like being lazy today, man. That's all I want. And I get what you're saying. There's
going to be no matter what, but I find that I really wanted to talk and kind of expand on it because it's something that I find a conversation that there's not a lot of people that talk about it, like the point of view of it, right? You know, and I do believe that things are marketed a lot differently nowadays too than it was 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like it
has to be.
The American dream, and I'm going to use the American dream, the United States, because it's like, get a house, get married, have kids, work your 9 to 5, retire. But not everyone wants that. Not everyone wants to. Some people, either they want to travel right away, or they want to run their own business, or they want to work online, or they want to there's more opportunities. I feel.
Yeah, I was going to say we've been given the great gift of like an influx of so many different options,
which I think also harms us though.
It does, because you have X amount of degrees of freedom to choose, and it's
like when you have so much choice, it's almost like you're getting pulled in 8 million different directions.
Yeah,
but it's just going off of being able to, really value what you're doing, and at the end of the day, who cares what anyone else is doing? Not in a negative way. But like, if you're happy doing what you're doing, why should I care? Like, if you're happy, man, you're happy, you're doing your thing. Mm-hmm. And if you're my friend, and I'm talking obviously right now to you, but in general, if you're my friend or someone in your businesses or your 9 to 5 and you're happy and you don't want to strive for $1 million and you don't want to, like, okay. Like, cool, man. Like, that's what you love to do. Like, I'm not going to sit here and fight with you. You have to be a millionaire.
Yeah.
Like, if that's not what you want to right now, like, maybe that'll change.
Maybe.
That's something it too,
could,
right?
Yeah.
That's like, that could change, or you could totally do the reverse. Like, you might.
I don't want any money whatsoever.
Yeah.
Zero.
Yeah. Maybe you want to be, what are they? Like, is it called a gypsy? Isn't that what they're called when you go like, you travel, or what is it?
Like a nomad.
Yeah, but isn't it a gypsy? Isn't that what it is?
No. Gypsy has a whole different connotation.
No, what is gypsy then?
Gypsy. I believe gypsies are individuals kind of stemming from Europe, I think, in around like.
Was that a bad term? Did I just say
No. Well,
that's not like a derogatory.
I don't believe gypsies like to be called gypsies.
Oh, okay. But it's like describe. I'm not like trying to be.
Yeah.
I thought that's actually what it was, though. I thought that's what.
No, so I think what you're thinking of more is like a nomad, someone that wanders and wants to be free and kind of.
I thought that was what. I swear that's what I thought. What is a gypsy then?
I can only really think of like kind of what Kieran has described, or like from Peaky Blinders, where like they're technically come from gypsies, where it's people that live very different lifestyles, normally like off the land, but they also really believe in like, I don't know if the right thing to say is like incantations and
like freedom.
Well, yeah, they really like have a different style of freedom.
Yeah,
but I think it also has to do with a lot of like, I don't know how to describe it. Just individuals, not magic, but like
spirituality.
Very, like very
so
spiritual.
Like kind of
also,
but like free. Like they don't like, not per se. Money doesn't really have its.
Well,
yes and no. I thought that I misunderstood.
I don't quite know. It's hard. Now that I've never been asked like what a gypsy is, so I'm given that I don't have any friends that are gypsy. I really don't know how to describe it.
Okay,
it's kind of hard actually. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, from what I interpreted it, I thought it was something kind of like you feel free. You're not, you're someone that travels. You're someone who is not
Gypsies
always in the
usually
same
like travel in,
place.
like in vagabonds or in like groups, I should say, where like you live. I don't think they
Not like a
are known.
compound, but
I don't think they're known for traveling like a ton, but they will travel in groups. They live usually like in very simple. And again, I'm thinking of like Peaky Blinders, like very stereotypical, like old gypsy. I don't know what a new modern
okay.
person of that lifestyle.
Well, if anyone knows, let us know.
Yeah.
I'd love to direct message me personally, because I'm actually not even going to look it up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna wait and see if anyone has a cool description, because I wanna learn.
But I think what you're thinking of is more like a kind of like a nomad, someone that just travels with a rucksack that they got on their back, and they work when they need to work, but they're just wandering.
Yeah, I just
money isn't really like what drives them. They just need enough to get the bus ticket to the next thing or the plane ticket to the next wherever.
Well, and that's kind of going back, like if that's what you want to do, like, man, you're happy doing that, like, do it, man. Right?
I agree.
I know we just had a lot about life things, purpose, things like that. I think the real big topic here that I just wanted to go off of is surrounding yourself with people that are someone that you can call a friend, or you can either family as well, but your circle of people around you that are important. And I just want to talk about kind of the importance of that, because now me and Aidan have known each other for a very long time, and we definitely have seen a lot of each other over the years. I laugh at that because it's been, I know we had mentioned at the beginning, about 22 years.
Yep.
So since kindergarten. But just our friendship and how it's adapted over the years, and how the things that we've changed and seen change between us. I know that for myself, me and Aidan haven't always agreed on things. Not that we ever have yelled or screamed at each other, but I know we haven't, seen
not
eye
really
to
who
eye.
we are.
Yeah, those are not people who we are. It's very hard to get. Well, I'm speaking for myself, but it's very hard to get myself very mad to where I get to that point. But it's something that you're not always going to see eye to eye, and that's okay. I think everyone deserves to have their opinion. I do say, though, we do, come together usually on conversations and understands each other's point of view. And sometimes we can even change each other's point of view. Doesn't mean that it's something that we always per se believe in or that we agree upon, but at least we can respect each other's view on that. And I think it's really important to have friends like that in your life. I feel like if you are always agreeing with other people and never having your point of view, then that is something that would need to be worked on, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because having your own self and your own views and your own understanding of life really helps to either see what works for you, but also understand other people's point of views and seeing if something they do works for you. And that's what I think it's really important for trial and error. But where I'm getting at with this is that, Aidan, I just want to kind of see hear what you have to say about your friendships and your friends over the years, and how you've seen things change or how they've been a value of you, and just what your view on of it is at the end of the day.
Yeah. Kind of just a leapfrog off of what you said, or a statement you said. Something that I have learned about myself, especially, is I'm someone that growing up, I didn't really like to state my opinion. I just didn't like to cause conflict. So I was very much someone that agreed more often than anything else. I mean, with people that I was comfortable with, then it was a little bit of a different story where I didn't necessarily have to like disagree in a way that was like shameful to them, but it was just more like, I always framed it in a way, because I was, again, I didn't enjoy conflict. I always framed it in a way where it was me just stating things differently, where it's like, I don't like the color red, not because I don't think red is a bad color, but I just prefer blue, something along those lines. So that's something that I've definitely learned from like you and our friend group, where as we've grown up, like I've valued more of the like specific personal insight from each individual. It's something that I obviously don't know because I'm not you. So it's great in that way. And it's been super helpful in times where, I don't know what to do, or I'm just looking to vent, or I'm looking to vent and then get some sort of response. So that's been something that I've found in others, and then been able to recognize like, oh, that's just something that I should do too, just to reciprocate and just to feel genuine to myself, but also, it's a good thing to do when they're asking. Like, you don't, I don't think I ever stated in a way where it's mean or harmful or shameful. It's just more like, hey man, I just see it differently, but I totally think that what you said is also fair. I just doesn't click for me, doesn't register. I don't feel that way.
Or I don't understand at the time, or
I don't understand at the time. Yeah. So I've gotten more comfortable with that, and I see the value in it a lot more. Because I do think I was just someone, again, I always just tried to avoid the conflict, and I would sometimes just reword it, but I've just been far more comfortable in disagreeing with individuals. And I know that spans across a lot of my relationships, and that's something that I've still learned up to like months ago, where it was like, oh, I just agreed far too much in the situation. I mean, there are external things that, it might just be easier than to push, but it doesn't pick your battles. Yeah, pick your battles, but it doesn't necessarily help in the long run. And I think that that's something I've learned from my relationship with you and with everyone that I'm friends with, where it's like, okay, I don't necessarily, if they're looking for something different, but I'll be genuine to myself. And sometimes too, it is, for me, it is kind of exciting to just be like, no, I disagree with it. Like if it's not a hot topic or like a sensitive topic, it's just be like, no, I don't like that. Not to have a unique take, but just to like, be like, no, I actually don't agree with it. This is exciting. I don't know how I'm the only one that's not. So I've tried to look at it that way too, where I have the freedom to just be me. And it's been fantastic. Like I said a moment ago, it still comes up. I've still had relationships where I'm a giver too. I will just do and do and do and do. And there are points, like I don't always reach breaking points. Like I will state an honest opinion if it's asked of me, but if it's just in a general conversation, I didn't always give my opinion. Now it's a little bit more free and fine. But in situations where like someone's directly asking me, I don't think I've had any problem before, and I don't now. But I know up to recently, like I still would just kind of give and give and give, so I don't have to like, it's just to please and just to like avoid conflict. And that's something that I've learned from our relationship, where, I mean, we're just different people, just from what we've talked today. Like you are running your own business, you do things completely on your own. I much prefer having balance and or structure in a way where I know that I just don't want to have to deal with that. I don't, that's not what I want in life. I just don't want to deal with it. But I see you do it, and I don't think it's wrong. I'm like, oh, that's just what Jeremy needs.
And that's what cool. And that's what I want to do at this time, right?
Well, yeah.
I think that's also a big thing too, just shifting. Like, I think that's the misconception too with people. What you're saying too, like what I'm trying to get at is like, doesn't mean what you're doing now doesn't mean that it's not going to change in 10 years from now.
Yeah, but like that's I'll cross that bridge when I
exactly. That's what it comes down to, right? It's like, doesn't mean myself or you are maybe in 10 years from now, you're like, you know what, I do want to run my own business. You know what, I want to do these. Like, doesn't mean, and I think that's also when, people ask like, what's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? I'm like, don't even know what my month, like 6-month plan is sometimes. And I don't mean that because I'm unprepared, but it's just, you don't know what things change or how things shift for you and how feelings will occur and things like that. So, at these point of our lives, I know that for myself, this is what I personally enjoy, and it's from what it sounds like you personally enjoy what you like to do, and that's what you're doing for yourself, right? So
but just the difference is something to be valued. I think. In terms of other things that I've learned, I think through relationships, and this came up more recently, where someone told me this. I've kind of learned about myself that, because growing up, I was just quiet. I don't necessarily know what I stated earlier was correct. I was shy, but probably just more quiet. But I've truly valued how much I could just get to talk with people. Like it's something that I think I listened a lot. I think because I just wanted to please people or like make sure everyone else is cool. Not that anything was wrong with me. I've been pretty stable my whole life. I don't think I've had any like horrible struggles that way emotionally, but it's been super valuable to like have friends that I can just talk to and just talk endlessly to, and also like listen. But I do feel like that's something that I've grown into a bit more, is talking a lot more instead of just listening. Right now trying to like balance too, because it is something that I've noticed that I've done a lot, and I've left conversations over the last couple of years where I'm like, oh man, like I really wanted to ask that person that, but instead I talked. But I just also recognized like, oh, I didn't really, like I listened a lot in high school and like at those times, and now I've just talked more, and it's something that I've learned and thought was awesome because I have just the comfort level with everyone, and even with strangers. I think it's evolved from my healthy relationships with people that I feel totally comfortable answering and talking a lot more with strangers without any real anxiety or like, whoa, what do I say? It's just more like, okay, like they're asking me, like I'm just going to be genuine and answer, and it might be long-winded because that's kind of how I talk at times. But at least it's a cool tool that I learned from all my great relationships that just evolved out that way. Ooh, what else?
I just want to. I think too. I hear this a lot, and I guess I'll just explain a little bit. Like me and Aidan don't talk every single day.
No, I don't. So that's a big key thing. To give you a backstory on me, I am not someone that can talk to. I mean, I can talk to someone every single day. That's not a problem. But yeah, I don't talk to like my best of friends or anyone that I consider a friend. I don't talk to them every single day.
Well, and I think that's where that like maybe some friendships are like that. I think
when you like in high school, that's what I loved. I thrived.
Well, you see everyone every day too.
It's fantastic. Right? Yeah, you see everyone every day. But then the moment that you're outside of that, and
I think that just comes with figuring yourself out though, right?
Yeah, and you have like tendencies
and different priorities too when you're out of high school.
But you, like just tendencies too, where it's like, okay, like, because I'm someone that really enjoys like this, where I will talk with someone for 8 hours.
Yeah.
Like I'll feel exhausted in a day.
You have a conversation.
But I like really going into whatever they want to talk about or whatever I want to talk about, or just even thinking random things and going off that. That's what I love, but I obviously need a recharge afterwards. But I'm totally cool doing that 4 out of 7 days of the week, so long as I get 3 to recharge in between. That's what I love. And I think because that's what I know I love, I think those come fewer and far between as you get older, which is okay. Like I just have to be all right with, there's maybe a week or so where I just haven't spoken to you, or I haven't spoken to so-and-so, or maybe this week it's just far more much this person or less that person, whatever it is. And that's just the way things go. Because I'm also someone that's always super happy when I see people that I haven't seen in a long time. I don't normally get any sort of anxiety from like, oh, like I remember not liking this person, or things last time didn't end so well. Like if I haven't seen someone in 5-6 years, I'd be like, all right, cool. Like Do I have an opportunity to really engage? I will. If not, like, I'm still fine with surface level. Hey, hello. Like, it's just nice to see people.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, just going off of all that, it's, friendships with individuals are going to be different, obviously, person to person.
Yeah.
But I think not having so many like guidelines on friendship, because every friendship is going to be unique in its own way.
Yeah, and I think it makes you appreciate things. Because don't get me wrong, I would love to see all my friends as often as possible, to the point where, like, I have to go, no, stop, please. I'd rather that problem than the opposite, where it's like either the awkward length of time where you're wondering, is it still cool to like offer to hang out in this way or reach out? I'd much rather the opposite, because that does come up when you go long enough. But it's still, I think the friendships I have around me, it's like, okay, I don't think there's any issue if it's been an extended period of time compared to what is normal, to still reach out and it'll be fine. Like,
I think that's what like true friendship is.
Yeah.
Like, it won't feel, no matter how long it's been, you can just catch up.
Yeah.
Where you kind of left off. Not like the same conversation, maybe if it's been a few months, but it doesn't, no matter what length of time that you haven't seen someone, you can still show up and have a conversation. It just feels like normal. Like it hasn't been a length of time.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, basing off all that, I know that we've talked a lot of topics today. And I think,
well, let me bring it back to you. Like, what do you think you've learned from friendships over the last, like, our friendship, any relationships, friendships, other things?
I believe that trying to have everyone be your friend is unrealistic.
Yeah. As much as that sucks to realize.
Yeah.
Because
you might, like, I look at it as categories, as like, you have an acquaintance.
Yeah.
You have acquaintance / friends. Like, it's in that. And then you have friends. Mm-hmm. Then you have best friends.
Yeah.
And then you have family. Yeah. Like, there's different levels. Categories. Even though I don't, when I introduce myself or I look at someone, I'm not like, I guess strangers too. There's the other end. Yeah. I'm not like, you're an acquaintance friend. Nice to meet you. It would just be more of like, okay, your boundaries, or your, I guess, guidelines, and not guidelines, because I had mentioned guidelines is not really a thing with friendship, but you know where you stand with that person.
Yeah.
And I think that's okay. Like, I feel that we as society sometimes attach to one person, and it's like, they're my best friend and only my best friend. They can't be friends with anyone else.
Yeah.
Or, then you have people fighting over like who's a better friend than,
who's at this level with this person.
Yeah. And it's just like,
if
you really value and truly believe in your friendship with someone, you won't have those worries. Mm-hmm. They might come up.
Yeah.
Because that's your ego being like, does this person actually still like me? Or are they still, but taking it back and being like, hey, if I needed to talk to this person, or if I text this person and I said, hey, do you want to hang out, or do you want to meet, or, it would be the same. And I think that's where the value of having a small circle really helps. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to try to make meaningful relationships with a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, you also thinking about that, because there's a lot of people, I mean, that we grew up with that I'm sure we would be great friends with if opportunities came up and circumstances matched up. But at the same time, you can't just go up to them, or even a stranger, and just dump on them, or expect them to reciprocate in any sort of way.
Or have care, really.
Yeah, like they probably still might like you, and they're like, oh, cool, man. But you don't know what's going on in their life. You don't know what mood they're in that day.
Yeah.
And also, like, it is a lot to ask without even asking. to just
Well, yeah, and I think too, like, even if I talk about something that's going on in my life, let's say it's
some people are more comfortable with being open too than others.
Yeah, and like let's say it's a friend or versus a best friend, or
Yeah.
I don't per se expect any different compassion or anything, but I believe that, you know, obviously if I'm if a stranger comes and dumps all their stuff on me, I'm gonna say this very, like, I'm saying this super nicely. Sometimes I just don't care.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that because I don't care about the individual, but I can still show compassion without caring.
Yeah.
I think that's where that line gets drawn, is that, you know, we all have our issues in life. And I'm not saying that your issues don't matter, but if you feel like everyone should be caring about all your problems, it's a really, really hard pill to swallow when
it's just not going to be met.
When it's not the case, right? Because we live in a world that, that it's true, but we live in a world where people just care about themselves more than anyone else.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that in the way. Doesn't mean that that if somebody comes to me and they tell me something and it's very hard, that I don't care, or that I'm not compassionate about it, or that I don't care about them. But I also have to worry about myself. And if I'm putting all my, like, let's say my cup is filled and it's my full cup is going to everyone else and it never comes back to me, I'm not even going to be able to be compassionate with anyone else. I'm not going to be able to help anyone else because my cup is so low that I've been trying to care about so-and-so's problem that has nothing to do with me, and I'm stressing about it, and I can't even sleep because of the issue.
Yeah.
And that's not also being fair to yourself. You know, if you're the one to do that to yourself all the time.
Yeah.
So the big thing is just learning that, you know, whoever you consider your friend, your best friend, your acquaintance, or anything, going into it, knowing first, I guess, where your boundaries lie with that person, but also too, like, the compassion will differ person to person.
Yeah. Learning to be compassionate even at your worst.
Yeah, and you can be compassionate to anyone. You don't need to be their best friend to be compassionate.
Oh yeah, no, you should. Like, if someone were to come up to you, like if someone came up to me, I would still treat them as just a human being and be like, all right, like 99% of the time, like I'd probably, like, as long as nothing going on in my life, like I'd probably be like, all right, let's get into it. Like, I don't know how much I can help you. Like, I'll demonstrate compassion and certainly sit here and give you my time. But obviously there might be situations where, like, I have something going on, or my mind, like you said, is like, I've only got 10% left.
Yeah.
I'd still probably be like, all right, like, I'm happy to listen, but let me preface this, please, with, like, I don't know if I can give you what you really need at this moment, but if it is really important, like, I'll still be here. But you try and set, like you said, the boundaries so that you don't just utterly deplete yourself. And then you go home wondering why you allowed that to happen. Yeah. For even just a stranger. Like, if it's someone that is truly close, there's, you know, you want to be there in any case. But it does get hard when, you know, you can't be there for whatever reason because of your own commitments, your own things going on in your head, whatever it might be.
Well, and two, like, if you and a stranger were going to the same problem, I would care more about.
Oh, 100%. If it were a stranger versus you, I'm just gonna have to apologize to the stranger. Like, sorry, man.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get is that that's okay, and I think doesn't mean you still can't show compassion to a stranger, but if the same issues are happening to one person, you kind of have these, and what you would value as your core group of people, where, you know, you might be doing a little bit of extra, I don't know if I like the word caretaking, but you might do a little bit more of that if somebody is very close to you that's going through it versus someone who's a stranger. And it's not that because you do not care about other people around you. It's that the value that the individual that's been in your core group for so long has impacted you and has been there more than, so they have a little bit of that attachment in a way.
It's a little bit more sway.
Yeah. And I think that's okay. And I feel like, you know, you can still be kind to people and you can still be, you know, generous to people, but there's lines that are drawn, I feel like, person to person.
Yeah.
And sometimes with the people that are in your core group, you might sacrifice a little bit more than the person that isn't.
Well, absolutely.
And I think that's completely okay.
Yeah.
But I also think that you also are not tied to always like being there for them all the time either, right? Like realistically, if every single problem you came to me with, or every thought that was negative in your head and you asked me,
called you 20 times a day, Jeremy, I got a new one.
I would be like, dude, like I love you. But I just
can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I got my other responsibilities. Like maybe we can either go meet up. We could talk about
just
this.
Get it all done.
Yeah. But realistically, it's something that's, and if that's something that is expected, that's really hard. You're putting that really hard on the other person if you expect them to be able to do that all the time. But that also comes with, you know, I guess learning boundaries, but also learning what a friendship means to you.
Yeah. Because
I think, you know, even we look at, you see movies, you see social media, see all these things, and we're kind of almost taught how to be friends, or taught what relationships would look like, or taught how life should be. And a lot of times that has, like, those are more of those like fairy tale kind of things where it's
very black and white. There's not a lot of gray.
Yeah. Right. And I don't believe that's something that is going to value long term. If you keep believing in that black and white, like that this is the only way, and because we've been shown on movies and things like this is how to be a friend, that's how you have to be a friend, and friendships will differ person to person.
Absolutely, I agree with all of it. All of it. I just think back to like when we graduated high school. I mean, it's been a while now, but that idea of, you know, people will come and go from your life, but just the strength at which you try to hold on to that, where you're like, oh, I can keep I can keep all these people. But then you come to recognize, like, no, it's just really so much better to have just a smaller group of friends.
Easier to manage too, though.
Well, far easier to manage. There's no doubt about that.
It's not that we don't want other friends. Like, that's on.
I will always take a friend. If you're listening, I'll always take a friend. But yeah, you like priorities come. And
it doesn't mean we won't have other friends either moving forward. Like we might have another friend that comes in our life at some point and we never expected it, and probably will happen.
Yeah,
we're gonna meet a lot more people, but it just doesn't mean we are also tied to.
You're not bound to who you've already met, and
and it's okay to be your own person and have your own friends, and it's actually really healthy.
And it just brings more interest into the relationship too, because like if you do absolutely everything together, it's great. But if, like, going back to kind of like the first point, if you see each other too much, what else is there to do or talk about?
There isn't. And it's like you don't even see your family all the time.
Like,
or like,
I will say, like, thinking to relationships where, you know, two people are like basically become siblings or like family. Like, there is something beautiful about it where you're like, oh wow, like they must just be together all the time, and like they're a great duo together.
Yeah.
Like, just as friends. Like, I know I look at it as like, wow, that's like really cool. But the reality is they're probably not always around each other. They just click really well, and they've been together for a really long time, that they just know how to do it.
Well, that's when I saw like your family recently. Like, yeah, it was kind of like I hadn't seen your family in so long, but it took about like I would say an hour, 30 minutes to an hour to get like kind of get back into like more of that rhythm of like I haven't seen your brother in so long, or I haven't seen your parents in so long. But it's not that it was awkward, it was just more of like
catch up.
Yeah, I was like
playing catch up.
Holy shit, like
yeah.
It's been how many years? And so and then you start feeling like a little bit more comfortable again. It's not that I didn't feel comfortable, but it was more of the fact of holy, I haven't seen these people in so long, and I can't even remember the last time I saw them.
Yeah.
So you're trying to kind of play that, and people change. That's the thing too. It's like, even like when I was saying like your brother, last time I saw him versus now, like his demeanor, his things that he like, and not negative. I'm just saying it's changed a lot. Right. So, you also have to kind of take a step back to view, okay, how's this person now reacting?
You can't come in with, if it's been 2.5 years, you can't come in with like, oh, who is like, I remember so-and-so, this is who I'm going to meet right now. And then all of a sudden you're confronted with so-and-so 2.0, who's rightfully grown, but you're like, okay, I got to learn this new person. Yeah. In contrast to who I thought they were.
Yeah. And I think that's good though, because then it learns for you to be patient and adapt and, realize that there's certain aspects of life that are not always going to be easy and you're going to have to pivot.
Yeah.
And honestly, at the end of the day, it kind of ties into what we're all saying. And I might end it here. Do you have any other, because I just want to tie in, do you have any other last thoughts?
Oh, geez. Not that I can think of. No.
Okay, maybe this will be a good place then to end it. But just kind of tying everything in, looking at friendships, pivoting, changes in your life, how to look at things in a different perspective, how to, go day to day, trying to be present. That's kind of all the things that I've tied into today. And I just want to thank you, brother. I love you.
No problem.
I appreciate you coming on today and
happy to be here.
Spending 3 beautiful hours with me. Dude. And talking about life. And it's been good and it's gone by quick. And I appreciate everyone for listening.
I appreciate you too.
Yeah, everyone go check out Aidan, not on Instagram.
I don't have anything to check out.
I'll just
plugs.
Put his number right here. No, I'll put his email. You guys can email him. What was it, like cow3000 at, what was your email then?
Oh, my old elementary school Hotmail. Gosh. Obviously it was like at hotmail.com, but
was it like cow3000 or something
like that? Yeah.
Everyone try emailing cow3000 and see if the email goes through.
I won't receive any notifications. I've switched so many times that there's no clear path to that email anymore.
Oh, that was it's a good funny ending. But if wants to ask me any questions or
ask through Jeremy.
Yeah. Then I'll send them to Aidan. I'll screenshot them. You can find me on Instagram at upnorthathletics or my email upnorthathletics@gmail.com and website www. 3 W's.
Yep, 3 W's.
upnorthathletics.com.
That's upnorthathletics.com.
Thank you for listening to episode 5 of the. Oh man. Thank you for listening. The North Star there. I'm still like, thank you for listening to episode 5 of the North Star podcast. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
Bye.